Okay, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll and establish a quorum?
Yes, good morning. Supervisors Kennedy.
Here.
Desmond. Rodriguez.
Here.
Hume.
Here.
Cerna.
Here.
And you have a quorum.
Great, thank you.
This meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors is live and recorded with closed captioning. It is cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast and DirecTV U-verse cable systems. It is also live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting will be repeated Friday, April 25th at 6 p.m. on Channel 14 and viewed at youtube.com/MetroCable14. The Board of Supervisors fosters public engagement during the meeting and encourages public participation, civility, and use of courteous language. The Board does not condone the use of profanity, vulgar language, gestures, or other inappropriate behavior, including personal attacks or threats directed towards any meeting participant. Seating is limited and available on a first-come, first-served basis. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to make a public comment and are limited to making one comment per agenda or off-agenda item. Please be mindful of the public comment procedures to avoid being interrupted while making your comment. Comments made by the public during Board of Supervisors meetings may include information that could be inaccurate or misleading, particularly concerning topics related to public health, voter registrations, and elections. The County of Sacramento does not endorse or validate the accuracy of public statements made during these open public forums. The recordings are shared to provide transparency and access to proceedings of public meetings. To make a comment in person, please fill out a speaker request form and hand it to clerk staff. The chairperson will open public comments for each agenda or off-agenda item and direct the clerk to call the name of each speaker. When the clerk calls your name, please come to the podium and make your comment. If a speaker is unavailable to make a comment prior to the closing of public comments, the speaker waives their request to speak, and the clerk will file the speaker request form in the record. The clerk will manage the timer and allow each speaker 2 minutes to make a comment. Off-agenda public comments will take place for a maximum of 30 minutes. The remainder of off-agenda comments will take place at the conclusion of the time matters in the afternoon. You may send written comments by email to boardclerk@saccounty.gov, and your comments will be routed to the board and filed in the record. If you need an accommodation pursuant to the Americans with Disabilities Act or for medical or other reasons, please seek clerk staff for assistance or contact the clerk's office at 916-874-5451 or by email at boardclerk@saccounty.gov. Thank you in advance for your courtesy and understanding of the meeting procedures.
Very good. Will you please rise and join Supervisor Desmond in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Again, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's board proceedings. I'd like to offer a special welcome back to our very capable clerk of the board, Flo Evans. It's good to have you back, Flo.
Thank you.
Again, as a friendly reminder, we certainly welcome any member of the public that wishes to address the board on any item that's on our printed agenda or on any of your minds, meaning subjects that are not on the agenda. We simply ask that as a courtesy, you please limit your comments to 2 minutes. That way, everyone who wishes to address the board has the opportunity to do so. So with that, Madam Clerk, will you please call the first item?
Okay, our first item are public comments related to matters not on the posted agenda. And so our first speaker is Ted.
Ted, you're like Madonna, just one name.
Call me what you want. Good morning, Supervisor Cerna, Chair, and Board of Supervisors. My name is Ted Samara. I'm the Executive Director of United Public Employees. We represent about 3,400, David, would you think, county employees around there. And so we're here today to discuss contract negotiations. And I know you have a closed session coming up here, and I appreciate you Board of Supervisors taking time to meet with me to talk briefly on contract negotiations. You're going to hear a lot from your negotiators that there's a lot on the table. And there is a little bit on the table. But these are going to those county employees that help your neighborhoods with the homeless problem, help them receive aid, those that can't make enough in these rough times. We have social workers out there trying their best to provide services to families, to keep the family together. I've talked to many of you about the walking homes. These are the same folks here that deserve a livable wage increase. When the pandemic hit and inflation rose to 6-7%, the county offered 4%. So they're still behind the curve here. They just want that parity. They want what you all got and an equal pay raise. We're not here to hate that you got yours, or when Ann was here and she gave it to herself and her deputies and directors with retro pay. That's fine. If you deserve it, you deserve it. But they deserve it. These folks took time off today, vacation time, to come speak with you today because they deserve it. And they deserve you to take care of them as county employees. They make you all look good by providing those services. They took the jobs like you took your job, to protect, to help, to assist your constituents, their community members. I talked to you all about the working conditions. They're the ones working in it. And you all heard me. I've been coming up here for years talking about the work conditions. And now it's hit the fan. We don't want to strike, but we will. That is our last resort. Strike is not a goal. It's a tool. And it's a tool we don't want to have to use. So please, when they come up to speak, please have your ears on and hear what they have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sarah Singleton.
Hi, good morning. My name's Sarah Singleton. I've been a social worker for Sacramento County since 1999. I currently work at Emergency Response and Child Protective Services, and I'm also on the 008 bargaining team. I wanted to express my concern about the county's position regarding equity raises and retention for Child Protective Services. The county provided UPE with data that shows that the human services social worker is below the base pay median by 7% with our comparable counties. The bargaining team has requested 5% in order to bring social workers at least into that median. Your negotiator has responded saying that the county is willing to either give the social workers a 2.8% equity, or the bargaining team can choose to put that money elsewhere. What is confusing to me, as somebody that's negotiated several contracts, my fellow social workers and my fellow board members, is how this is an either-or situation. Human services social workers have been under the median in several negotiations I've been part of, including the most recent contract that just expired. Not bringing social workers up to a comparable base pay is not only insulting, but it's detrimental to the county in recruiting and retaining social workers in programs across both DCFAS and DHA. I'd also like to touch on the retention incentive for CPS. The bargaining team has requested an increase in the retention incentive for CPS social workers, family service workers, and child development specialists. Recruitment and retention has been an ongoing issue for CPS for 20 years. I'm sure you're all aware. CPS is chronically understaffed, placing pressure on staff to do more work to cover the vacant positions. CPS social workers, family service workers, and child development specialists regularly place themselves in harm's way in order to assist children and families in need, whether going unannounced into people's
Ms. Sarah,
homes.
could you please wrap up your comments?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Attempting to work with hostile clients and in the welcome homes. Again, I'm sure you're aware of the problems there. Sacramento County, keeping our pay competitive may keep highly qualified staff around longer, saving money in the long run, and in constant turnover and training. I'll close in saying that I am still optimistic that you are listening and that you want to do what is best for both your social services staff as well as the children and families of Sacramento. Thank you.
I ask that you please keep your comments to 2 minutes.
Next is Ebony Ward.
I want to say, I want to talk about accountability policies and accountability and ethics. I am a mother whose child was removed by CPS under false pretense. I have an autistic child. As a mother, I have advocated for over 14 years for this child, only to be lied on and consecutively and not knowing who to turn to. I came to you guys with everything I have. You guys are my last fight. I was wronged. My child was removed because they said she wasn't getting the mental health and health needed that she needed, which is a lie. My child has been gone for 6 months. I provided all documents. She was not behind in anything, and they still can't tell me why she's gone. The original CPS worker came into my home. I'm thinking she was an ally. She threatened me and told me if I did not sign my child over, that she would take all of them. Obviously, I still have one child in my custody. I am fighting to get my child back, and I will not give up. My child was medically kidnapped by CPS because my child has an IEP meeting. Okay, now my thing is, if you guys wanted to know the truth, why not use the IEP social workers? There's so many things that could have been used. I gave the evidence to my attorney. They never turned it in. When I was on trial, I asked the judge, can I give you guys my evidence? That I was denied. I did know I needed to complete a case plan, and I did that. I finished it before they asked me, only to have CPS social worker and investigator report to the judge that the mother was not in compliance. I completed it. So they have continued to lie just to justify why they took the child. In 6 months, if she was behind, you guys should be able to show what she was lacking and what they brought to the table to get her the help. They can't. The only thing the child is in right now is therapy that I found prior to the child getting removed. They told me I'm not a bad parent, but it's too much for me. I'm a mother for the rest of my life till that child died. That is my child. They're trying to force me to call her a boy when she is not. I have civil rights, and I will stand by them.
Ms. Ebony, would you be able to wrap up your comments, please?
Yes, and please, if you guys hear me out, I have my evidence with me. Please, I don't know who to turn to. I wrote the civil rights coordinator. I wrote the supervisors. I have all paperwork, and they can't tell me why she's not in my custody.
Thank you. Supervisor Hume.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say, Ebony, you've been in contact with my office, and we're going to try and do what we can to help you out.
I'm begging.
Next speaker, please.
James Starr.
Thank you. Good morning, Sacramento County Supervisors. My name is James Starr. I've been working for the county since 1985 in Department of Human Assistance through building closures, layoffs, decades of chronic understaffing, and COVID. I'm also a member of my union bargaining team. We have been trying to negotiate a new contract since December, and it's been an uphill fight all the way for no good reason. Your county team have made themselves unaccountably unavailable for bargaining in a way I have seldom seen through 11 contract cycles. The latest stunt was Mr. Michael Jarvis's sudden illness, which has stalled bargaining for almost the entire month of April. Maybe I shouldn't have been surprised. He did the same stunt 3 years ago, last contract cycle. Maybe he's allergic to unions, maybe he's allergic to fairness. Please quit wasting your employees' time and order your team back to the table, this time with a fair economic offer. To do otherwise is to devalue your employees who only want decent working conditions and a fair contract. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Stuart Howell.
Good morning, Supervisor Cerna, members of the board. I'm a member of Bargaining Unit 008. I've worked for the county for about 13 years now. What I'd like to talk about this morning is a matter of value. Our members are your public face in providing county services. Our caseload represents approximately a third of the county residents. What we're asking for is for our value to be recognized. We're looking for a fair contract. We're looking for an equitable contract that recognizes the inflation of the last several years. We're looking at a contract that meets reasonable compensation for the stress, the working conditions, the workload. I will point out that Costco is now paying their clerks close to what our entry-level staff are being paid, with less stress. The other thing in value, it's more than just the dollars within the contract. We're looking at indirect costs in service delay because of staffing and staff retention. We're looking at training costs to replace the staff that has left. And this has been an ongoing issue that I've experienced for the 13 years I've worked for the county. So, numbers I don't have, I'm not part of the bargaining team. However, I would ask that as you consider our contract, that you do consider the value that our members provide the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Tezra Sledge.
Good morning. My name is Tezra Sledge, and I'm a business agent with UPE assigned to DCFAS, specifically CPS, and I am a part of the negotiating team as a co-chief negotiator.
I'm going to stop your time. Can you bring the microphones down? I'm looking right through the microphones at your eyes, and I want to be able to see your face.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
There you go. That's as low as it goes.
No problem. So in listening to and being in the contract negotiation sessions, like I said, specifically, I represent CPS. I'm assigned there. And there have been multiple incidents of the social workers and the CDSs getting assaulted while on the job. There's a social worker that lost his finger while on the job. Their vehicles are constantly damaged while on the job. They are punched in the face, they are kicked, they are hit, they are spit upon, which is crazy to me to have somebody spit on you while you're at work, but it happens to them, and it happens to them on a daily basis while they are there. We requested to have a 15% incentive for them, which is the same that the mental health counselors and YDF receive. Those mental health counselors are protected by staff that are trained to protect them against the same population of youth that the social workers in these welcoming houses are dealing with. Your negotiator came to the table and rejected that 15%. If you do not think that losing a finger is worth 15%, then there is something definitely wrong with this picture. And I would implore you to send your chief negotiator back to the table with something substantial that we can actually negotiate. Because what he's doing right now is not negotiating. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Cassidy Burdick.
In August of 2024, the County Board of Supervisors responded to a grand jury finding that the County Board of Supervisors had erroneously approved themselves a 36% increase to their salaries rather than a 20% increase to their salaries. In their response, they stated that by November of 2024, they would calculate the amount overpaid and implement a, quote, a plan to recoup the overpayment. November 2024 has passed, and the details of such a plan do not appear to have ever been released. I contacted the Office of District Supervisor Phil Cerna regarding this issue and have not received a response. I and my fellow county workers find it unacceptable that the county board would be capable of approving themselves a significant pay raise with little to no deliberation while failing to come to an agreement on a pay raise as little to 1 to 4% for the workers that speak to and interact with some of our most vulnerable communities directly. This is not to say that the county board does not do work worthy of a salary increase, but we want what we're worth too. We don't want congratulatory emails. We don't want pats on the back. We want fair compensation. We want adequate leave, and we will fight for that. And it doesn't get more complicated than that.
Great, thank you. And since you brought my name up, I will just tell you that what has happened, at least with regard to my paycheck, is that there's been an amount taken out, I believe, every other paycheck. Yeah, so that's how we're getting to parity. Thank you.
Megan, Elsa?
Good morning. Happy Earth Day, everyone.
Good morning.
Happy Earth Day. Happy Earth Day. It may seem like this is a change in topic, but my main points are that there is no conflict between good jobs and the environment. There is no conflict between housing and the environment. Those are false choices that have been driven into us. The county must be concerned about money right now. I'm sure you all are. I don't know the details, but I know there have been federal cuts that I'm sure have been affecting you. And, the county needs to think about money to pay these good people good salaries. So I just want to say, don't give in to temptations from developers who you may look at getting the income from those developments that don't make sense for the environment. Big housing developments outside the urban boundaries will create temporary jobs and will create housing, but it's not the kind of housing that is needed right now. The kind of housing that is needed is housing inside the urban boundaries that is near public transportation. That's what local governments can do, because local governments are going to need to step up because of federal cuts, rolling back regulations that regulate to give us clean air, clean water, and protect us from climate change. So local governments can approve infill development, which will create jobs and housing and will be less of an impact than housing outside the urban development. Also, that housing outside the urban development may be a problem, the urban boundary line. That's what I'm talking about. Maybe a problem for response times. Law enforcement and fire may have a harder time getting there because of limits to egress and ingress. And those, we will have more need for those kind of services with the increasing climate chaos. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Priscilla Navarra.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
My name is Priscilla, and I've worked as a family service worker for Sacramento County for the last 15 years. Over the past several years, I've seen an uptake in violence of the workers that have experienced, including a coworker that has had his finger cut off, which you've already heard about, and another who was dragged out of his county vehicle and brutally assaulted. That assault left him with broken ribs, a broken nose, and a broken neck. These events happened while they were just doing their jobs. We put ourselves on the line every single day while protecting the most vulnerable population, which is the children. We don't have the luxury of having a weapon on our hips to protect us while we do it. At the absolute very least, we should be compensated for what we do day in and day out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Booker.
Good morning.
Morning.
I know it seems like I have a lot, right? It looks like I'm going to do a lot. It looks like I'm about to do a lot. I'm not going to do that much. I have been a social worker in Child Protective Services with Sacramento County since 2013. I've worked in emergency response, court services. I worked as a team decision-making facilitator and a prevention child and family team facilitator, which has gone away, but that's a different discussion. Whenever I tell anyone in the public that I've chose to work for CPS, they all shake their head and say, I don't know how you can do that job. I knew that when I came here. I wanted to help kind of mend families together, support families in their reunification, and provide support to them. However, I know doing that is knocking on doors where people are not wanting me to be there, and that is a very dangerous and precarious position to be in, especially when you do not have a weapon on your hip. So I ask that with everything that's going on, that we just consider that for me, as somebody who did this on purpose, I take being a public servant seriously. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to me to get it right. Please, I believe that you embrace that as well. And I do not begrudge you compensation for what it is you do, because I think your leadership is valuable and you deserve to be compensated for it. I think what we do deserves compensation as well. And it is when your negotiator comes to our table and offers something on the table that starts with 1%, it's insulting and it's infuriating. That is also a representation of you, because you are the ones that are charged with sending him there. I don't think that he should, if that is not the case, that he doesn't represent you in that way. I hope that when we go back to our negotiation table, that feeling is represented with what we encounter there. Last thing, I don't know the lady that was here, Ms. Ward, but please do look into what she has said. Social workers are not infallible. The courts are not infallible. And if there's any truth to what she said, then injustice is being done, and that needs to be corrected.
Thank you, Mr. Booker. Madam Clerk, I'm going to make a respectful request here. Can we make sure that we start the clock after speakers introduce themselves and explain kind of in context what they do, what their title is? That way they're not burning into their 2 minutes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Kiki Brand.
Good morning, Chair.
Morning.
Supervisors. My name is Kiki Brand. I work with the Department of Human Assistance last 14 years. I am obviously a 008 member, and I am the steward for UPE. You've already heard about we would like a raise and compensation for the job that we do. You've also heard about the dangers that you have many of our members in. I'm not here to beg you. We've already been here before. Last contract, we came in here and advised you, the ones that are in these chairs who are still here, that we want what we deserve. Our families want what we deserve. And your families get what you feel they deserve. 1%, 1.5, 2.8 is not what we deserve. And everything in this economy has gone up. Rent inflation, groceries, gas, but we're not receiving any of our pay going up. We're not receiving leave times going up, and we want those things. So what I'm going to ask you is to utilize the morals that I believe you have, stand on the principles that I hope you have, and go back and tell your negotiator to go back to our negotiation table and bargain with dignity and leave us with ours. Because if he keeps provoking us, you have many more members, including myself, who is ready to strike. We don't want to. I love helping this community. That's why I took the job. I didn't take it to become a millionaire. I took it to help the community. The same constituents that voted you into those seats are the same ones that can vote you out. We want a right and fair contract. We deserve it.
Thank you.
Cameron Adams.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Cameron Adams. I'm a registered nurse for 12 years, and I've been working in hospitals, home health, and now psychiatric care. I joined Sacramento Behavioral Hospital in November, and in that short time, I've seen the essential work it brings. Every day, I take care of people in deep crisis who are scared and confused, and often without unstable housing. They're not seeking medications. They want safety and dignity and stability. As a nurse, I do everything I can to help them heal, but I can't do it alone. Sacramento Behavioral Healthcare Hospital is the first of its kind in Northern California, with 40 beds providing acute psychiatric care. We employ 260 staff, and we receive millions of funding and support from you guys. This is a critical mission. In November, our staff voted to unionize, a reflection of our commitment to the safety and dignity of our patients. As you prepare to enter into a new contract with our hospital in June, I urge you to include stronger, enforceable language around safe staffing and safe facilities. This isn't just a workplace issue, this is a public safety issue. Without enough nurses and support staff, patients fall through the cracks, and when they do, they often fall into homelessness. I know you care deeply about solving the homelessness crisis in Sacramento. You've invested time, funding, energy into tackling this complex crisis, but I want to be clear. Without strong psychiatric care and adequate staffing to deliver, we will not break the cycle. Nurses are on the front lines of that fight. We are your safety net, and we need your support to hold the front line. Please stand with us, make safe staffing a contractual priority. Help us care for the people you pledged to serve. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Janet.
Hello, my name's Janet. I have worked as a mental health tech at Sacramento Behavioral Health Hospital for the past 3 years. As we have recently unionized, the Sacramento Behavioral Health contract is due for renewal with you here in June. I'm asking that you please hold them accountable for increasing safety measures for staff and patients. Inadequate staffing is a consistent issue at Sacramento Behavioral Health Hospital that increases the likelihood of incidents occurring. On the weekends, there are fewer social workers. With fewer social workers, there's fewer groups. With fewer groups, that means there's less structure time for the patients. When patients don't have structure, they have more time to sit alone with their thoughts, and that can result in undesirable behaviors, even self-harm. Additionally, when there's no social workers present to lead groups, the MHTs feel obligated to lead them. This is not only something we don't have time to do on top of our regular duties, but we don't have training to do groups. The lack of proper training is common at SBHH and results in safety concerns. Even seemingly simple tasks as reporting on patients during hands-off is often done incorrectly. Knowing if a patient is a danger to others is vital information to ensure safety. I was attacked by a patient. It could have been prevented if staff knew how to properly report a patient during hands-off. No one mentioned that this patient had a history of being violent towards women. If I would have known that, I could have been better prepared. We faced a lot of obstacles becoming unionized, and it was disappointing to see money spent on union busters while our staff remained untrained. I am hopeful that with this new contract, funds will be spent on staffing and training, which will increase safety for our patients and employees. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Purnell.
Morning.
Morning.
I don't have a prepared speech. My name is Purnell Neesmith. I am a unit secretary / PCSS, Patient Care Service Specialist for Sutter Center for Psychiatry. I'm here just to bring some awareness. In the means of poor staffing, at our facility, our acuity has risen much higher than I've seen in the last 3 years. In particular, we have a individual who has assaulted 5 of my coworkers as well as 3 other patients. The employer doesn't see fit to remove this person. This is the employer, Sutter, that my understanding you guys are providing funds for. However, we are extremely understaffed. I've been assaulted myself. To hear some of these stories, I know people who have their fingers bitten off, eye sockets dislodged. Me and my fellow coworkers are not being taken in consideration of our safety. I work on a children's unit, okay, adjacent to an intensive care unit as well as another adult unit. Just the other day, said person broke through a barrier onto my unit. Had I not been standing at that particular time at the door, he could have assaulted one of my patients, which are adolescents. This guy has sexually assaulted a staff member, a rec therapist, jumped on the lady, took her down, hands around her throat, and proceeded to force his face into her face, for lack of better words. My employer doesn't see the necessity to remove this person because their focus is money. I urge you guys, when you renew your contract with these guys, to have a stronger language to protect me and my coworkers. Not only do I have adults, but I have children that I care for. Could be one of your guys' nephews, nieces, okay? I took a pay cut to do this job. And it's not about the money, it's about a person being placed in a situation to help others. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarishma?
You might have to lower this down.
You just have to move the mics down. It's as low as it can go.
Okay, perfect.
There you go.
Okay. My name is Sarishma Lal. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner at Sutter Center for Psychiatry. I have been there for over 5 years. I've been a nurse for about 14 years. I live in the Sacramento area, and I have grown up in the Sacramento area for the majority of my life. The reason why I'm here is because I want to bring concerns and issues about unsafe staffing that my colleagues have been dealing with on a daily basis. There have been several instances that, due to the high acuity of the patients, mind you, these patients are the ones who fall under the serious mental illness diagnosis, who are admitted to the hospital with only one patient care staff on the floor. Many of my colleagues have been assaulted, sent to the emergency room, and then out on leave. And even after bringing these issues up to the leadership at Sutter Center for Psychiatry, it falls on deaf ears. We understand that the county provides contracts to Sutter Center for Psychiatry, which entails safety clauses for its staff and patients. What we are asking is for that the county enforce and hold these facilities accountable to carry out for what is written in the contract, and that is safety for the patients and staff. This is a public health issue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Conclude your off-agenda comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone who provided comments today. I know some of you are veterans of public speaking here in our chambers, and so you are familiar with the rules about off-agenda matters, but just as a general reminder for those that maybe aren't as familiar, we are certainly here to understand, digest anything you want to share with us. If it's not on our agenda, by law, we can't have a discussion about it. But having said that, we do hear you, and it is of value, I think, to all of us to take into account your side of an issue as well as others. So thanks again for providing that this morning. Before we continue, Madam Clerk, I failed to thank your Deputy Clerk, Nicole Lee.
Yes, thank you.
She did an outstanding job in your absence, and I would be remiss if I did not mention the fact that she did a lot of heavy lifting, and she, I don't know if she curses my name in private, but a lot of it was at my behest. So I appreciate, Nicole, everything you've been doing over the last few months. Okay, next item.
So at 10:15, we have the first presentation scheduled.
Yeah. Do we want to do nominations?
Sure. So that would be item 53.
Oh, and I
You
don't
also have own ranks. Mr. Chair, I'll let you
Okay.
take the call on how you want to handle that.
Let's do own ranks first.
Okay, that's item 53. Give everyone a chance to
And
get
if my
their
staff
notes.
are watching upstairs, I do not have my nomination sheet, so perhaps they can print that and get it down to me ASAP.
We'll contact somebody. Nicole's going to get somebody
Great,
down.
thank you.
Okay, so let me start. You're continuing to May 13th, the Developmental Disabilities Planning and Advisory Council, Cordova Community Planning Advisory Council, Elk Grove Casumna Cemetery District, Fair Oaks Cemetery District, Fair Oaks Community Planning Advisory Council, Sacramento County Behavioral Health Youth Advisory Board. You're continuing to May 20th, the Assessment Appeals Board, Carmichael Old Foothill Farms Community Planning Advisory Council, County Service Area 4B Slough House Wilton Casumnas, County Service Area 4C Delta, Sacramento County Youth Commission. You're continuing to June 3rd, Cemetery Advisory Commission, Children's Coalition, In-Home Supportive Services Advisory Committee, Local Child Care Planning and Development Council, Sacramento County Mental Health Board, and the Sacramento County Treasury Oversight Committee. And for our first item is the Adult and Aging Commission. Do you want me to just see if I can find a district specific and give you some time?
Sure. Or
I have notes.
if you have notes for District 1, you can go ahead and recite those.
Yes, okay. So there's a recommendation to continue Adult and Aging Commission to May 20th. For Antelope Community Planning Advisory Council, I will look to Supervisor Rodriguez.
Continue the remaining seats to June 3rd, please.
Thank you. Disability Advisory Commission, there is a recommendation to appoint Angela Talent and waive the process
For District 1?
for the whole body.
For the whole body, okay. So I'll move it.
Okay,
Please vote.
unanimous vote. And there's also a recommendation to appoint Kathy Sachin, I hope I said that right, or Sachin, and to waive and appoint.
So move.
With a continuing of the remainder to June 3rd. And then for the Orangeville Community Planning Advisory Council, Supervisor Rodriguez.
I would like to nominate Whitney Connors Payson and nominate April Nordstrom.
Okay,
And then continue the remaining seats to May 13th.
you got it. Rio Linda Alberta Community Planning Advisory Council, and this is for you too, Ms. Rodriguez.
I'm sorry, which one was that? Sorry.
Rio Linda.
Rio Linda, continue to May 13th.
Okay, and that concludes your nominations.
All right, very good.
Would you like to do the own ranks?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we're going to item 52, which is the Board of Supervisors 2025 appointments from own ranks to regional boards and commissions. So it looks like for today, let me find my place here. All right, we're looking at the National Association of Counties.
I just assume we keep it as is.
Okay, got it. And I can just take that direction. And then for the Public Financing Authority of the Sacramento County Metro Air Park Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, would you like to keep that status quo?
Sure.
Okay. All right, now that concludes item 52 and 53, and we have 1 minute.
Not bad. Yes.
Good timing.
Any good jokes out there? Next item.
For item number 2, this is the presentation of resolution recognizing April 30th as National Therapy Animal Day.
Okay, do we have representatives here that would like to join me at the podium? Because we would like to recognize you and your four-legged friends. Who's this?
This is Eclipse.
Eclipse.
Eclipse is 9 years old.
Eclipse. Is that Australian?
Australian Shepherd.
Both?
Yes.
And who's this?
Drizzle. Drizzle.
Drizzle. Okay, I don't even want to know.
We have a weather theme.
Why that?
It's a weather theme.
Okay, all right. Drizzle. All right. Thank you for being here and joining me here at the podium. Fellow colleagues, members of the public, staff, today we are recognizing April 30th as National Therapy Animal Day. And I think many of us here at the dais and our staff are very well aware of the value that therapeutic animals provide here in our community. This is something we do annually, and rightfully so. We understand that pets, dogs, cats, even other types of pets really can have a hugely beneficial effect on both our mental health and even our physical health. Just their presence is very calming, can do things like lower your blood pressure, and it's especially of value for individuals such as veterans, seniors, and people experiencing end-of-life circumstances. So it is only right that Sacramento County today, again, recognize April 30th as National Therapy Animal Day, and we do have a resolution here for the owners or handlers or both?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Very good. So what we'll do is we'll invite you to say a few words, and we'll take some photos with the resolution and Drizzle and Eclipse, and love to hear from you.
So I'm Jackie, and these are my cohorts, Melanie and Gina, and the most important things, the four-legged dogs. We're actually from an organization called Pet Partners, and we also do pocket pets. We do guinea pigs, rats, hamsters, llama, not a pocket pet, llama, rabbits, alpaca, horses, pigs, and birds. Oh, and cats. Thank you, cats.
Okay.
Yes. So, and we've
That's
been.
a wide assortment.
It is a wide assortment.
Yeah, literally a menagerie.
Yes. The most prevalent, of course, is dogs. Our second most prevalent, though, is horses. So if anyone has friendly animals at home, please stop and see me. We're always trolling for good teams, and we visit really any place that you can imagine. I personally do juvenile detention. Melanie works with preschoolers. I don't do that because they're sticky. And Gina is also visiting. I don't know hospitals. She's doing primarily hospitals.
Very good.
So yes, thank you very much for
Yeah,
welcoming us today.
I know that our airport director is in the audience.
Yes.
What about the airport? Do you do anything
You know,
at the
the airport actually is handled by Linda Hart,
Okay.
which is a separate organization that also does the same kind of work that we do. It's
Okay.
I actually used to belong to Linda Hart.
Okay.
And they're a very venerable group. They've been
Right.
in Sacramento a long time. So we're all doing the same thing.
I think for many of us, we probably encounter therapy animals, most likely dogs, at not just our own great international airport, but other airports across the country. And I know
Yes.
it does provide a very kind of calming effect for people that might have the jitters in terms of not liking to get on a plane. And so that's where I've seen them kind of
Most predominantly.
deployed in practice, yeah. So,
Yes, yes.
Yeah, well, thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here. And I don't know if your colleagues want to say a few words? No? All right. All right. Then we're going to have the camera person come up here, and you can hold the Rizzo, and I'll flank you here, and we'll get Drizzle and Lips in here.
Important ones.
Very Very good. Thank you.
We will be available for petting when we're
Nice.
done.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we're doing the mosquito vector next. Okay.
Okay. Let me wait for Mr. Chair to return to his seat.
All right, next item, please.
Item 3 is the Sacramento YOLO Mosquito and Vector Control District Annual Presentation.
It's the one time of the year we get to hear the word chikungunya.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, and it goes, thank you for raising it. Yeah, we go from therapy dogs to the anti-therapy of mosquito.
Right.
We get scowled at more than anything else. So appreciate the opportunity to come out, talk to you again a little bit about what we're anticipating for mosquito season as it starts to warm up. We're starting to see quite a bit more activity, and we'll start to get into essentially our disease season, which starts kind of in June and runs all the way through October specifically. So my name's Gary Goodman. I'm the district manager for the Sacramento YOLO Mosquito and Vector Control District. We cover all of Sacramento County and all of YOLO County. Within the state of California, there's about 60 public health agencies like ourselves, Mosquito Control District. Wherever there's, for most part, a population center, there is a mosquito control district that is designed to be able to try to suppress abundance of mosquitoes and, of course, protect the public from disease transmission. So again, our job is to provide safe, effective, economical mosquito and vector control. But essentially what we're trying to do is make sure that people can enjoy the outdoors. As the weather starts to warm up, people are going to be outside. They're going to be in short sleeves and shorts, and that becomes a time where they can be bitten by mosquitoes. And our goal, one, is to suppress the populations of those things to make sure that you can have that picnic in your backyard or at the park and not be bothered by mosquitoes. But of course, there's also the concern associated with disease transmission, and specifically West Nile is the one that we have the most prevalent here, but there are other exotic diseases such as dengue, Zika, and of course chikungunya, as already previously mentioned. So the season is here already. We've already had some spring rain that started to fill up some containers and areas out in our particular area. Mosquitoes need water to breed. They lay their eggs in standing water, mostly stagnant water, so that they can be protected from predators. Then they go through their 4 life cycles, 4 larval stages, a pupal stage, and then emerge as an adult. A single mosquito will lay anywhere from 150 to 200 eggs at a time. Only female mosquitoes bite. They're looking for the protein in your blood to be able to create their eggs. Male mosquitoes just mate and feed on nectar for their short lifespan.
There are so many jokes there. I don't even want to go.
I've heard almost all of them. Go ahead. Maybe you have a new one. Again, for us, West Nile continues to be that prevalent threat that we've had. West Nile started in 1999, was first found in New York City, and then within 4 years steadily made its way across the country. West Nile is a bird disease, so it's carried by birds and vectored by mosquitoes. So a mosquito bites an infected bird, picks it up, and then passes it on to another bird or passes it on to a human or a horse, which tend to have the symptoms associated with the disease itself. So it's easy for us to spot some of these sources that are here. You can see in the picture, things that are holding and standing water. So those pots, the little buckets in people's backyards, those are easy things for us to spot. Bird baths, tires, those types of aspects. But the more difficult or the easy things for us is actually, like our agricultural areas. We go out, we have 45,000 acres of rice in Sacramento and Yolo County, huge breeding grounds for mosquitoes. We have a number of wetlands with Sumnes River Preserve, Natomas, the Nature Conservancy, Vic Fazio Wildlife wetlands. All of those areas are easy for us to spot because we can see from the road. If there's green out in the middle of summer, there's water underneath that, and we can spot that. The more difficult thing for us to find are the things that are in people's backyards, right? So those buckets, those tires, the bad swimming pool that is turned green, that's where we ask the public to give us a call, let us know that you know of a neighbor that maybe has a bad pool or that you're being bothered by mosquitoes. It allows us to come out and take a look around that area to be able to try to find where those mosquitoes may be breeding and take care of the problem as quickly as we can. So we go through what we call an integrated mosquito management approach. First is public information. We have active billboards and television television, radio ads. We do a lot of community events where we go out to the public and try to educate them on the dangers of mosquito and disease prevention. Then we go through what we call our surveillance program. This is where we set numerous traps out throughout our district. We collect data essentially on a daily basis, looking for different species of mosquitoes. In our area, we have about 24 different species of mosquitoes that are native here. Not all of them transmit disease, but the ones, of course, that we have in most abundance do transmit disease. So we do our surveillance where we set traps, we collect mosquitoes, we bring them back to our lab in Elk Grove, identify them by sex and species, and then, of course, test those mosquitoes to see if they're carrying disease. Then we have a biological control program. In the center of the screen, you can see our mosquito fish. We're the largest mosquito fish breeding facility in the country. We plant about 3,500 pounds of fish just in Sacramento and Yolo County. So typical sources are rice fields, irrigation ditches, wetlands, but backyard swimming pools, anywhere where they will take care of the mosquito population is where we'll plant that biological control. We have an ecological management department. This is where we work with landowners such as CRP or the state in terms of manipulating their property so that water will flow through and they will not be creating stagnant water that creates then more mosquitoes. And then our control operations. We have folks that go out every day. They are assigned to a particular zone. So we have somebody, say, down in Galt. They know all of the sources down there, and essentially on a weekly basis, they're visiting those sources, making sure that they're not producing mosquitoes. And if they find production, then they treat it accordingly.
Gary, before you go on, you mentioned a number of, I guess, hosts or agents or property owners that, you know, have or could have kind of the attractant stagnant water for breeding, and that contributes to the challenge. What about the reclamation districts and coordinating with reclamation districts? Because we have several that kind of overlap with our districts and certainly our county. Representing Natomas and being a 23-year resident of Natomas and having already 1,000 out there and Fisherman's Lake, I know that we're literally kind of surrounded by year-round water that doesn't necessarily flow very fast.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
we have kind of, for the most part, like I said, our zone technicians that work in a particular area, for a long history, we've got collaborations with reclamation districts, with the wildlife or wetlands, for farmers, all of those types of things. They know that we're going to be on their property. They know, and we try to work and collaborate with them to be able to try to find the common ground. Specifically, when you look at farmers in terms of what they're trying to do, rice farmers specifically, you know, we have best management practices that we talk with them about, potentially creating borrow pits, because rice farming, you know, you have to draw the water down to control the weeds, and then you bring it back up, and then that creates more habitat for mosquito production. But if we plant our fish there, when they draw that down, then the fish can go into the borrow pit, so then when they flood back up, the fish can come back into the field. So we're not having to go out there. So we have ongoing collaborations and relationships essentially with every landowner within Sacramento and Yolo County, because we've been around for a long time, making sure that we're trying to coordinate with what those efforts are. Because we understand for wildlife aspect, you know, you want to create habitat for the birds, you want to create habitat for the waterfowl, but we also want to try to reduce mosquito production. So there's caveats that we can work with, or things that we can work with on them to be able to try to still meet their goals, but then also be accepting of less mosquito production on their property.
Thank you.
This is a brief snapshot last year of what we had in terms of West Nile virus activity within the county itself. So the red circles are mosquito samples. These are our surveillance picked up mosquitoes in these locations. We tested them, and they came back positive for West Nile virus. The triangles are dead birds. So again, West Nile virus is a bird disease, so it's carried by birds. If you see a dead bird, please give our office a call. We'll come pick it up. We'll test it and find out if it died of West Nile or if it died of other causes, a cat, or hopefully not a therapy dog. So as you can see, we had, you know, for the most part, where population centers are, we had quite a bit of West Nile virus activity. So we respond to these areas with added additional surveillance and control measures to be able to try to help suppress those populations. On the left, we have kind of a general chart of human cases that got reported last year or the last 5 years in California. One thing I want to try to highlight highlight here is that the majority of human cases that get reported typically are folks that have had the more serious form, or what we call neuroinvasive West Nile virus, right? So there is West Nile fever, which are typical flu-like symptoms that people can recover within a week. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes much longer. And for a lot of those cases, they go unreported, because if you don't feel well, you stay at home, you drink orange juice, you stay in bed, you get rest, and then hopefully you recover. You never go to the doctor and find out what was your cause. It's a seasonal flu or whatever that may be. But the majority of these cases that get reported to the state are actually neuroinvasive. These are people that had to go to the hospital. They have potential encephalitis-like symptoms, swelling of the brain, paralysis, blindness, and of course leading to potential death. And so the CDC estimates that for every neuroinvasive form of the disease, you have anywhere from 30 to 70 other cases of people that are getting sick, but they're just underreported. So you're really talking about thousands of cases. And a couple of years ago in 2023, there was a larger uptick. So you're talking about a number of people that have been afflicted with this.
Gary, before you go on, Supervisor Hume has a comment or question.
Thank you, Chair, and that was a perfect time for the segue. In 2023, was that uptick due to how wet of a winter we had, and so there was more standing water for mosquitoes to breed?
The short answer is yes and no. Nobody knows, but yes. What we tend to see, actually, the trend has been is that in drought years, we tend to see a higher uptick in West Nile cases, and it's counterintuitive. You would think, okay, well, if I have more water, I'll have more mosquito production. But what we tend to see is that in drought years, there's less water, and so then you get a congregation of both the birds and the mosquitoes wherever there is water, and that tends to amplify the virus. And so we've seen that. If we could come up with some theory or specific reason as to when we're going to have a good or a bad year, that would be wonderful. Unfortunately, each year is different. The fact that we've had some recent spring rains that's filled up some opportunities, that obviously the earlier you have mosquito production, the more that they can produce, right? Because if I have more production, every time that female takes a blood meal, then lays another 150 to 200 eggs. Though those eggs hatch off, half of those are female, they take blood meals, and so it amplifies very quickly. And so yes, in general, you tend to see a higher production when we have more water, but sometimes we tend to see a little bit less virus activity when there's more water. So again, I just want to make sure that the board and the public are aware West Nile virus is a very serious disease, can lead to death, and we don't want to just classify it as just general flu-like symptoms. Take care of yourself, because these things are important. And there was a study done by CDPH back in 2006 that they did surveys of people that had symptoms of West Nile virus, and over half of the people still had a symptom 1 year later. So, whether that be a rash or a headache or just not feeling back to normal, a year of going through that is pretty debilitating, not only for yourself, but for your family, your work, all of those things. It has a significant impact. So we've talked about this for the last couple of years. We've detected in what we call invasive mosquitoes, first found in 2019. And these are Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus. Aedes aegypti is the Asian tiger mosquito, and then the yellow fever mosquito, and Aedes albopictus is the Asian tiger mosquito. And so these mosquitoes typically were not found in our area. They're more tropical, found in Southeast Asia, found in South America, Central America, and Mexico, and on the eastern part of the U.S. where it's more humid. But we found them in 2019. And the concern with these particular mosquitoes is, one, they like to bite people, and two, they are very efficient vectors of the more exotic diseases like dengue, Zika, and chikungunya. See, now you've heard it twice. So one of the concerns is that if they get established, then we may have local cases of this particular disease. So we have a number of people that travel to areas where these diseases are endemic. They get bit by an infected mosquito there, then they come home here and they start to exhibit the symptoms. And then that's become when they're infective. And so if we have the right type of mosquito that can transmit that disease, we can have local transmission of this. And that's happened just 2 years ago in Southern California. They had local transmission of dengue for the first time in like 40 years. And they had 2 cases 2 years ago. Last year they had 18 cases, so almost ninefold increase. And so they are anticipating a higher increase of that in Southern California. We want to try to control that as best as we can. The map shows the areas where we found these particular invasive mosquitoes. So again, it seems a bit more pervasive. And we have a number of travel-related cases of those exotic diseases that come here. One thing that we're going to be looking at to try to combat this, typical mosquito control strategies are, chemical control. We have larvicides that we put in the water to kill the larval mosquitoes, and then of course we have adult mosquito control products by truck or backpack or ATV, and of course the airplane that sometimes we have to fly over town to be able to try to control. We do that when we meet a certain threshold of a significant risk to the human population, when our numbers are showing increases of abundance of mosquitoes and then also increase of disease prevalence, right?
Don't we also have a fairly large drone for rice fields?
We have a number of drones that we treat in rice fields, wetlands, all kinds of areas where the airplane not necessarily can get to, right? So sometimes there's things that we can do on a local level, and we try to keep it small with trucks and backpacks and the drones, or sometimes we have to go wider spread just because the problem has grown beyond control. But we have a particular new technique that has it's been utilized for a long time, but it's called incompatible insect technique. And it's also called sterile insect technique. And the concept here is that it's counterintuitive to what we normally do because we're used to killing mosquitoes, right? So now in this particular aspect, what we're going to do is we're going to release male mosquitoes that don't bite, but essentially they are incompatible when they mate with the female. So we release these mosquitoes into the wild. They mate with the wild females, and then the eggs never hatch off and never come off. So this is a non-chemical, non-pesticide way to be able to try to crash a particular population. Research has been done on this, and they've had trials in Brazil, South America, Central America, some of the islands, Florida. They did a trial in Fresno a few years ago, Southern California. So there's a number of places that this type of technique works in being able to suppress the population. It doesn't work for every species of mosquitoes, but it does work for Aedes aegypti, the invasive mosquito that we found in the last 5 years. And so we are planning on doing a trial in this particular, we believe in the Natomas area, and we have a meeting with your office tomorrow to discuss kind of a little bit more detail. And we're looking to essentially, again, release some of these mosquitoes in a small area. We want to be able to try to show that this method works. And if it does, then this will be another tool for us to be able to try to help suppress these if and when we start to get potential local transmission of more exotic diseases, and specifically dengue. So we're excited about the concept. This particular concept has been in agriculture for a number of years. They used it for screwworm. They've used it for the Mediterranean fruit fly. They've used it for other insects. It's now started to translate over into the mosquito production aspect of things. So we're excited about it, kind of a new tool, because we tend not to have too many of them. So again, moving forward for us, continuing to explore this incompatible insect technique and other control methods as they start to come online. There's more research that's being done to try to help out with mosquito control. As a public health entity, we tend not to have a whole lot of tools or options. We tend to get byproducts from the agricultural market because we don't have a commodity to sell. We're trying to protect public health. We always continue our surveillance and control efforts, and obviously when we find disease in a particular area, we always try to do as much public outreach as we can so that people are aware what the risks are and what they can do to be able to try to combat it. Again, if you have public events that's coming up in the summer where people are outside, we buy these repellent wipes by the pallet. So just contact us. We're more than happy to provide those along with other information, or even attend your event in person to be able to try to help educate the public. And that's essentially what our goals are. But what we want to try to encourage is that we always need the help from the public. If you're being bothered by mosquitoes, if you see mosquitoes, if you see standing water, call our office. Typically, we'll send somebody out that day because we already have somebody in the area, or the very next day to be able to try to take care of the problem.
Question for you, Gary. I think we all listen very intently every year when you give us the presentation, and more importantly, the public the presentation, especially as it relates to trends, and especially as it relates to emerging vectors to be cognizant of. But are you also giving similar presentations to city councils in the county? Okay.
We are. Yep.
Okay, very good. All right.
We have essentially scheduled with every incorporated city within the area, and then of course we have a public information officer that does neighborhood association groups, and we do school groups. And,
is that Luz?
Yeah, that's Luz. Yes.
Yeah, she's an institution.
She is. Yes, she's very passionate about what she does. We're lucky to have her. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, very good.
All right. Any other questions?
Any other questions from the board?
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks again for being here. Appreciate the information.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have
Thank
a good
you.
day.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone sign up to speak on this?
We do not have any public speakers.
Okay.
Okay, our next item is item 4. This is the presentation of resolution recognizing Capital Region Small Business Week, highlighting BizX, the joint county and city of Sacramento event on May 7th, 2025.
All right, Crystal, you get to follow therapy animals and mosquitoes.
I know, but I've got some great people with me here today. Good morning, Chair Cerna and board members. Crystal Bethke, your Director of Economic Development here at Sacramento County. And I am so pleased to share with you information on our upcoming Capital Region Small Business Week. This is a federally designated week by the nation. The U.S. Does this in recognition of all of the great small businesses that we have throughout our country, 33 million of them, 4.1 million in the state of California, and over 26,000 just in the unincorporated area of Sacramento County. And so we take this opportunity to really recognize their great work, but also provide them with additional resources. So this first week of May, we'll take the opportunity to host 11 major events throughout the region. One of those is going to be co-hosted between Sacramento County and the city of Sacramento. We do this annually where we provide resources, but also hear from our small businesses that have had an opportunity to grow and speak into the entrepreneurs and those interested in pursuing growth as well. And so today joining me, I actually have two of our amazing partners, Heather Lutzy, who is our district, come on up ladies, come on. Who works with, she's our district director for the Small Business Administration, and Sophia Kanan, who works for the Women's Business Center and is also this year's chair for the Capital Region Small Business Week. So I'd like to give them the opportunity to say a few words and then present them with this award.
Very good.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Chair and board members. My name's Heather Lutzy, and I have the honor and pleasure of being the director for the U.S. Small Business Administration's Sacramento District Office. The U.S. SBA has been around since 1953. Over the last 60 years, we have celebrated National Small Business Week by proclamation from each president. We partnered about 10 years ago with the California Capitol, the Women's Business Center, and the City and County of Sacramento to provide, during National Small Business Week, Capital Region Small Business Week. And it's grown and flourished over the many years that we've been doing it. And just wanted to give you a flavor of the impact that this has, not only on our communities. As Crystal said, 33 million small businesses nationwide, 4.1 million in the state of California. But with SBA, the magic happens in Sacramento County. All of the loans for the entire country are processed out of Citrus Heights. So think about the gravity of that. We affect everybody in all corners, not only in the U.S., but also our territories. So really just wanted to tell you about the impact of that. And to give a shout out to Sophia Kanan, and I want her to speak as well, who has chaired this committee for going on 10 years. So please, Sophia, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. How are you? And thank you for good morning. Thank you for taking the time to hear us out. My name is Sophia Kanan. I'm the director for the Women's Business Center here in Sacramento, and I've also had the honor of being the chair for this amazing initiative, Capital Region Small Business Week. So I am just here to say a big thank you for taking the time to recognize all of the amazing work that we've done, but more so for taking the time to recognize small businesses within Sacramento County, surrounding counties, and beyond. This is a national initiative, but we also want to make sure that we're doing our best to celebrate it here within the county. So again, thank you so much for your time, and very, very excited about being able to add another one of these to our collection. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Yes. We'll go ahead and turn around and we'll get some photos. Okay. We have to hold.
Yes, please.
Yes,
Is there anyone
please.
on the committee that would like to?
Yes, please.
That would be great.
Oh, yay. I'll go further back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank you, Crystal. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone sign up to address this matter?
We do not have any public speakers.
All right. Next item, please.
Okay, we're on to consent matters, items 2 through 44. I do have one note about item 6. You're adopting an ordinance adding Sacramento County Code Title 4, Chapter 4.08 regarding short-term rental regulation and licensing. You waived reading on this on April 8th. And that concludes the clerk's notes.
All right, thank you. Any member of the board wish to pull specific items for comments or questions? I do have a developing queue here, and we'll start with Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just a brief comment on item 22.
22, let me read that into the record. All right. Item 22 is the Ansel Hoffman Park Overlay Project, award of bid to Granite Construction.
I just want to thank our Regional Parks Director and our DOT Director for this project. They have heard from me many times about the condition of the roadways on Ansel Hoffman Park, in particular on Tarshish Road, when you're entering the main entrance to Hoffman. And of course, I've heard a lot about from my constituents about it as well. I was recently walking one of our small dogs down there, and she fell into a pothole that was so deep. It took me about 10 minutes to find her and dig her out. So this is going to be a great thing for the community. Hoffman Park is a park that's very heavily utilized, as you know, and I just really appreciate all your efforts. Thank you.
Great comments. Supervisor Hume.
Thank you, Chair. I have questions about item number 16.
16. Item 16 is a request to authorize the Director of Airports to negotiate and execute the First Amendment to the Agreement for Passenger Conveyance Systems.
And we just fortunately happen to have said director here in the audience, which is good. My questions, I have a couple of them. First is, I assume that this is an amendment not just for the total amount, but also for the term of the contract, given that it's starting with a new year one and going for the next 10 years, so it's going to move from 31 to 35.
That is correct.
That's correct. And then, so my question is, there's a pretty significant contingency in there. Is that for if there was, say, an unforeseen failure of equipment entirely, or what is that contingency set aside for?
Yes, indeed. That is in case there's a failure. As indicated, the existing systems that we have are quite old. So we've had various instances where we've had challenges. We are also installing quite a few passenger conveyance systems in the new pedestrian walkway. And, you know, the contingency is less for that than for the failure of the old systems, but we still wanted contingency as that's a new facility.
And that leads directly into my final question, which is that was part of the justification for the increase, nearly doubling the size of the contract.
Yes.
I assume that those new facilities, the cost of installing them is built into the construction contracts, and so this is simply the maintenance of them.
That's right.
But it's probably a year or two before they come online. And so are they just kind of baked into, I just kind of see what appear to be, a percentage increase year over year. I don't see a big jump when those new facilities come online.
I would need to check on that for you, but yeah.
It's just a curiosity thing. It's
Yeah,
not.
I'll get back to you on that.
I agree that we need to move people between floors and the long walkways, and so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're adding, just so you know, we're adding 2 passenger elevators, a utility elevator, 4 elevators, and 4 moving walkways to the pedestrian walkway.
Okay.
So it's a lot.
That's significant.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it, Cindy.
Okay, any other questions, comments from board members? I do just have a brief comment on item 15.
15, okay, give me 1 second. Get my notes here. Item 15, authorize the Director of Airports to negotiate and execute a supplemental agreement to the Federal Aviation Administration contract. This is for the land use for the air traffic control tower.
Great. So I'm just going to use this as another opportunity to point out the fact that this is part of a very momentous part of history for SMF, for our international airport, in terms of the decades of need and advocacy that we have committed to work with our congressional delegation to secure federal funding and support finally for a new tower. So I assume this just advances that. And I also wonder out loud whether or not this is something that may come up during the annual cap-to-cap visit that is coming up here shortly. I know we're going to have a representative from our airport system back in D.C. with a few of us. So, Cindy, can you kind of speak to that?
Yes, certainly. So this is an extension of the lease that the FAA currently has for the existing control tower. Gives us another 5 years while they're doing the remainder of their studies and their planning. There is $5 billion of money in the bipartisan infrastructure law for the air traffic organization to build new facilities. And so this would be covered with that. It may come up in your discussions. Honestly, dealing with the air traffic organization is a little opaque. We're more familiar with the airport side of FAA. The air traffic organization tends to hold their cards pretty close to their chest. But I will tell you that we are in the process of scheduling lease negotiations with them for the new tower. And so we do expect that everything is a go and it's proceeding.
Very good. And I'll just again remind everyone that, of course, we're extremely proud of our international airport. Our entire airport system is fantastic, but I in particular, since it's in the district I represent, brag about it frequently. I think most of us do. But as much as we appreciate the aesthetic and function of things like Terminal B and soon to be a new parking structure to make life a little easier in terms of how we provide parking access to the traveling public, a new tower is so essential, and that has a lot to do with making sure that line of sight for air traffic controllers is what it needs to be, so that it's not just an enjoyable experience, but a very, very safe one at SMF. So again, thank you, Cindy, for all your hard work on that, and I'll be sure to coordinate with Stephen probably before we even get to DC.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and move consent items 2 through 44.
Okay. There's a motion, a second. Madam Clerk, do we have any members of the public signed up to speak on this
We
matter?
do not have anyone signed up.
All right, then please vote.
Unanimous vote. May I ask who made the second?
I believe it was Supervisor Desmond. Okay. All right, next item.
All right. We are on to item 45. Hold hearing of default and fine Sierra 99 Gateway LLC and default under the development agreement and amendments between Sierra Gateway and Sacramento County.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Chair Cerna, members of the board, Todd Smith from Planning and Environmental Review here in collaboration with Finance Department. This is a joint effort by all parties. Just for context, Sierra Gateway LLC is managed by its principal officer, Chris Vrame. This site was originally approved for a digital billboard in 2013. There was also a development agreement approved at that time, which required annual payments for the duration of the agreement. Sierra Gateway stopped paying those payments from 2020 to 2023. In April of 2024, your board found Mr. Vrame in default, or the company in default of the terms of the agreement. There was also an amendment to the development agreement that sought to lower the payments on an annual basis, as well as include a payment plan to collect the arrears from the 2020 to 2023 time period. That DA amendment was approved in August of 2024. Since that time, Mr. Vrame has made one of the outstanding payments for collecting the arrears, however, failed to pay the January 2025 payment. So this would be the second time that Mr. Vrame has defaulted on the terms of the agreement. Therefore, staff are recommending that the board formally find Shared Gateway LLC and Mr. Vrame in default, which then allows staff to pursue all the remedies outlined in the DA and available under law. Pretty simple.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any questions or comments from board members? Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to address this
We
matter?
do not have anyone signed up.
Okay. We do need to consider a motion.
I'll go ahead and move the recommended action.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and second. Please vote.
Unanimous vote.
Thank you.
So we need to hold for about 5 minutes.
All right, we will stand in recess for 5 minutes. Okay, I'd like to call back to order this meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll and reestablish quorum?
Will. Supervisors Kennedy?
Here.
Desmond?
Here.
Rodriguez? Here. Hume?
Here.
Cerna?
Here.
And you have a quorum.
Very good.
Yes. Item 46 is the 2022-2024 Sacramento Vehicle Emissions Project Report.
Looks like we got a pretty good crew here that's going to enlighten us.
Let me turn my notes down.
Thank you. And then, no, yes, do you have our, can we go back one?
I'm going to ask Metro Cable if they can take the PowerPoint back one page to the beginning.
If not, that's okay. Well, thank you very much, and happy Earth Day. It is a wonderful thing on Earth Day to be able to share with you the results of our vehicle emissions project. This is a community-led effort to understand the impacts of vehicle pollution on public health in Sacramento County's most underserved neighborhoods. And I'm Gail Brosnan. I'm a program planner with Sacramento County Public Health. I was given the privilege of helping to work with this project. The original duration was for 2 years, calendar year 2022 through 2023, but due to some COVID delays, we asked for and we received a 9-month no-cost extension. We received almost $2 million from the Department of Justice as a result of the Volkswagen settlement, and a very important part of that was to get as much of that money deep into the community as possible, and I'm pleased to say that 87% of that went into the community, just over $1.7 million. The goals was to establish air quality monitoring in Sacramento's environmental justice neighborhoods, to monitor all vehicle emissions with a special focus on diesel emissions. We developed and collected community health surveys to understand the public health impacts of vehicle emissions, and we did those in multiple languages, including English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Hmong, Russian, Farsi, and Dari, in order to make it as easy for all to participate. We had it in both printed and electronic versions. We focused in the North Vineyard, West Arden Arcade, North Sacramento, South Sacramento, and Gardenland Northgate areas. And the outcomes was neighborhood-specific and whole project visual summaries from those community health surveys, which were then returned back to the community and used as community outreach and education. Mapped with data results from randomized sites and a journal article with executive summary. And some of the partners here are going to take on the next step.
Very good. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I'd like to introduce myself. Oh, thank you, Gail. Introduce myself. My name is Richard Falcon. I was on this project representing United Latinos. I did want to just very briefly acknowledge United Latinos now has a new executive director. Dr. Manuel Guillot is here with us today in the audience. I just wanted to introduce him, and our treasurer and board member, Christina Mora, but also the many, many partners from Health Education Council, Valley Vision, the Department of Health, Breathe Sacramento, and many of the CBOs that also joined us in this effort. And it's really with the LPC Consulting as the external evaluator and survey management organization, along with these partners and CBOs, that all of us brought our expertise and best practices forward to the 4 project priority areas that Gail spoke about in the project. Each partner engaged other CBOs in order to enhance community engagement in those areas of focus. And some of those engagement practices included, but were not limited to, things like multilingual surveys, town halls, food distribution events, focus groups, in some cases, near and dear to my heart, art-driven engagement practices as well, to really get to those kinesthetic learners. And one other thing that became a surprise for me as a result of a focus group, when we started querying the community as what are the methods we should best communicate to you with, it was amazing to hear all of them, unprompted, said direct mail. And so direct mail was used because they say, we may not look at our social media all the time, but we always open our mail. So it became a very, very interesting finding that led to some of our successes. And next slide. So with the milestones that you see here as we traverse through the 22 to 2024 in there, at the beginning we established the community engagement objectives, our community engagement strategy, determined some of the air monitoring sites that we were going to be using within those project areas. We engaged with 4 priority communities about vehicle emissions and the public health, and then again with LLC, and collectively we created some surveys for our community, and I'll take you through some of the results of the surveys shortly. But we collected a little over 1,200 surveys throughout the 5 geographical regions that we have here. 500 of them specifically came from within South Sacramento and the Vineyard area. We compiled community reports and 1 countywide report, which we present here for you and today here. Extensive mobile air monitoring with the help of the wonderful people from Sac State Environmental Sciences. You'll hear from Professor Wayne Linklater later. And that we also got interns from Sac State and took them through the monitoring with devices that we had purchased and focused in those 4 priority communities. We reported back to those communities, again, through town halls, multilingual sessions, art-driven sessions, in order to bring some of the information forward and to find out from them some of the information, some of the strategies they would take, knowing what they know with the activities that we had here. And then we continued doing air monitoring for the project all the way till the end. It took some time to get that data analyzed and together. And so again, we are here today with publishing this report, but not only with just the surveys that we're going to talk to you about in just a moment here, but also anecdotally, I wanted to share with you 3 just very, very brief stories from community. One was someone who said, look, Richard, we know the air is bad. What do you want me to do about it, though? I have to work. You know, teach us what to do. And they want to be a part of that solution. Another demographic group who said, we know the air is bad, but when you show us how it's going to affect us financially, maybe now we'll come to the table to try to help with some of those strategies. And so we had conversation with them demonstrating how the health impacts from the air pollution that they were taking in did affect those days off and such like that, but it was interesting. But the one that was the most heartfelt was one of the community members that got one of our air purifiers that we gave away at the town halls in there, was just so excited because normally they would not have been able to afford to buy an air purifier for their home to help mitigate some of the circumstances and help their family members be a little bit healthier. And they were just so excited and so grateful for that opportunity to have an air purifier in their home. The surveys here, as you can see, I want to point out, 1,276 collected. Some of the interesting pieces that come along here, for example, is that you'll see residents are most interested in doing these activities, learning more. 53% said, we want to know more. Teach us, educate us so that they can develop their own strategies. 37% said, now that I know, I want to talk to my neighbors and share this information so they can become more aware of the issues that are going on. And others that said, sign a petition. They would be glad to put their name into initiatives and policies going forward to result in some of those. Before I turn over the next part of this presentation to Professor Wayne Linklater on there, I just want to point out to you, just for me personally, how important this project was. You see, I'm primarily a theater artist and an artist here in Sacramento, and I got into community organizing because of the introduction to United Latinos and the things that they were going on. But as a community member, being able to become a part of a project like this, I was able to learn about how our agencies work, how this kind of data is collected, and for me to be able to stand and talk to community and relate to them and say, what can we do? What do you want to see happen? Is something that I thought would never take place for me. And so I take great pride in that, and I've seen that happen throughout this project where community comes forward and says, now we can feel a part of this. So it's a very, very important step in getting community involved and getting those community-driven strategies. And with that, for some of the mobile monitoring data, I'm going to turn it over to Professor Wayne Linklater.
Thank you, Richard. I'm Wayne Linklater, Chair of Environmental Studies at Sac State. So, in terms of monitoring, we formed and trained teams of undergraduates in the use of distributed technology sensors and toxic metal aerosol real-time analyzer to take 10 and 30-minute samples of air pollutants at hundreds of randomly chosen sites across and around the 5 environmental justice zones displayed in the map. It's important to note that we did not measure air quality standards. Instead, our objective was to measure variation in air pollutants in order to identify areas that should receive greater attention in the future towards improved air quality for communities. The graphics shown here, the 4 graphs, are frequency distributions showing the number of samples on the vertical axis for 4 pollutants: black carbon in the top left, particulate matter, 2.5 microns and less, nitrous oxides, bottom left, and carbon monoxide, bottom right, according to their concentration in the air, with higher concentrations to the right on each of those graphics. The dotted lines either indicate levels described by state and national standards or historical concentrations in Sacramento County for black carbon and nitrous oxides. Some things to note from these graphics. Concentrations of black carbon exceeded 1 microgram per cubic metre of air in a very small minority of samples and exceeded 4 micrograms, a level typical of heavily polluted cities, in only 3 samples. Carbon monoxide concentrations were also low. However, the 10-minute sampling of nitrous oxides and particulate matter, and especially nitrous oxides, routinely exceeded annual or 1-hour standards. Our measure of variation among these pollutants leads us to reassure about levels of black carbon and carbon monoxide, but recommend a continued focus on lowering nitrous oxides and particulate matter levels in the air. These are heat maps of those pollutants. The hotter the colour, of course, the more concentrated the pollutant is. We found high levels of nitrous oxides and particulate matter mostly in North Vineyard. In other environmental justice zones, their levels were comparatively uniform and low. Like for black carbon, there are currently no state or federal standards for heavy metals in the air, although it's already established that heavy metals are hazardous to soft tissue and therefore residents' respiratory and neural health. We discovered comparatively high levels of heavy metals in North Highlands and West Arden Arcade. This was exemplified by the metal chromium on the left and manganese on the right, but also included magnesium, zinc, and copper. These are all metals associated with both industrial sites and vehicle emissions. So in quick summary, first, the air pollutants we measured are generally low, but concentrated in some areas. There should probably be a future focus on particulate matter and nitrous oxides. We regard that as warranted based on the evidence. And third, that airborne metals are an emerging concern requiring greater investigation. And this is the subject of future work to try and identify the sources of those heavy metals in Sacramento County. Thank you.
On that last subject, Professor, is there any suspects on that, on the heavy metal front, like brake dust?
Brake dust is possible. However, we've just recently done an analysis where we quantified the volume of traffic and the concentration of metals, and we're not finding a strong signal. There are a number of suspects in West Argon Arcade and North Highlands that are worth investigating further. But I do not at this time have any other clues.
Okay, thank you. Does this conclude the presentation?
It does.
It does.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all. And I know a number of us showed a great deal of interest at the outset of this initiative, and certainly, you're well aware we all sit on our local air district. I had the good fortune to serve for a number of years also on the California Air Resources Board, and so this is of continued particular interest to me. Especially given the geography involved. There's a number of communities that I directly represent and serve, as there are others that my colleagues do as well. But I think really understanding the connection between certain types of existing and emerging threats to air quality, whether it be particulate matter or oxides of nitrogen, or other aspects of overall air quality, that connection to disenfranchised neighborhoods is something that I think we need to continue to have our thumb on the pulse of. So great work, and do appreciate the information. Supervisor Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry for the late punch in, but something just struck me as I'm looking at the maps. Frankly, I'm pleased to see that South Sacramento isn't more heavily impacted than I thought it might be. Professor, to you specifically, in the South Sacramento region where it's not, the heat map's not as drastic, in your opinion, is there adequate testing going on in that area, in that community, to come to some real hard conclusions? I'm asking a scientist to come to hard conclusions. I know you don't like that.
No, thank you. Thank you. We're in the advantageous position today of seeing quite rapid advances in air monitoring technology, in particular, its miniaturization and mobility. And I don't think many regard prior testing as adequate, given what it is now possible to do. It was one of the motivations for our design of this project, was to be able to get air sensors out to a multitude of randomly chosen sites, rather than being limited to a few sites. And that sort of work is going to be increasingly more possible, and will probably take this sort of information to a whole new level.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
May I add something to that,
Please.
Supervisor Kennedy?
Of course.
I did want to point out that there is much more work to be done, and all of our all of our organizations are committed to continue this community-driven air monitoring and analysis and community engagement. And I cite AB 617, specifically in South Sac Florin, as an example of that continued efforts. And especially now with the community emission reduction projects that are going on as a result of AB 617, you can see that there are dedicated people continuing to look at that. I am also pleased to announce that United Latinos and a number of organizations like La Familia, Community Response Center, and Sac Tree Foundation are starting the Greening North Franklin area in your district specifically, sir. And we will be doing more air monitoring out in there and bringing forth more data, more education, and more community-driven mitigation strategies. And that's the one thing that, as a citizen, I found, because I kept saying, why does this take so long? And I'm beginning to understand why it does, and give grace to the agencies and the organizations like our Air Quality Management District who are doing that hard work. So I hope that helps.
It does, and Richard, thank you, because you've hung in there from the beginning on this, and really appreciate your work.
One last question / suggestion, if your response is an affirmative, but have you given this presentation or had a sit-down meeting with Councilmember Eric Guerra, who is a current CARB representative for the 5 local air districts?
Not directly with Councilmember Eric Guerra specifically on that, but it is an idea for us to present within City Council. We have to make those connections and go through. I will say that Councilmember Guerra has been very, very supportive of all of the efforts, especially sitting on the CARB board as he does as well.
Good. Well, I would strongly encourage you to don't let too much time pass so that he can kind of hear from you what we heard today. And I think you were right. He would find this of great interest. So thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone sign up to address this issue?
We do not have any speakers for that item.
Okay, very good. Next item.
Item 46 is item 47, authorize the execution of lease agreement and sublease agreement for the Department of Health Services at 6790 Stockton Boulevard in the city of Sacramento.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair and Board. I am Nick Lavoie, Chief of the Real Estate Division in the Department of General Services. I am here to present on item 47, seeking your approval on lease and sublease at 6790 Stockton Boulevard in the city of Sacramento. As a quick background, on December 3rd, 2024, the Board authorized the Department of Health Services to execute a revenue and expenditure agreement with WellSpace Health and Advocates for Human Potential Incorporated, who's representing the State Department of Healthcare Services, for an expenditure agreement for that expenditure to go to WellSpace Health to receive all of the county's Behavioral Health Continuum Infrastructure Program Round 3 grant funds, consisting of about $23 million from the state and about $2 million in match funds from the county for the construction of a mental health rehabilitation center. Additionally, the Board authorized the Department of Health Services to send a letter of intent to WellSpace Health, setting the framework to negotiate a 30-year lease agreement as required by the State Department of Healthcare Services. The proposed lease and sublease are the result of those negotiations, and approval of the proposed agreements will allow WellSpace Health to move forward with planning the construction of the Mental Health Rehabilitation Center within WellSpace's larger campus that will be developed with supportive services. The proposed 30-year lease will commence on completion of the construction, which is expected to occur by December 31st, 2026. WellSpace Health will perform all planning, permitting, and construction required for the site and building. The proposed 30-year sublease will authorize WellSpace Health to occupy the leased premises and operate the facility themselves or through a service provider. The sublease requires WellSpace Health to provide the county with a first right of refusal on available beds prior to offering them to third parties. The county will pay a per-night rate for clients the county places at this location. The county, through the Department of Health Services, will fund the requisite county match of about $2 million with patient care revenue and fund potential construction costs overruns not to exceed $1.5 million, also with patient care revenue. WellSpace Health will manage and pay all costs associated with the leased premises. the county's only ongoing obligation being a per-night rate for clients the county places. Staff recommends the board adopt the resolution authorizing the Director of the Department of General Services or designee to execute the proposed lease and sublease agreements, sign other ancillary documents as required, and manage the lease and execute amendments subject to the terms of the lease and sublease. The Department of General Services work closely with the Department of Health Services on the preparation of the agreements, and both departments are here to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you. We do have Supervisor Kennedy is punched in with questions or comments.
Thank you, sir. First of all, to all of staff, this thing touched so many departments. Great work. For 10 years that I've been here, we've been talking about the need for this. This is going to have dramatic impact on our community, included but not limited to our homeless population. And this is what I've been talking about, and some of us have been talking about as far as addressing those issues. Isn't just about shelter, though shelter is important. It's also about these types of services that are badly needed in our community. I also want to thank WellSpace for, I understand that there were times that discussions and negotiations were tricky. And I want to thank our staff and WellSpace for ultimately getting to where we are today. And I see Supervisor Humes in, but I will make a motion to approve staff recommendation.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. We will hear from Supervisor Hume. I will then ask the clerk if we have any public speakers, and then we'll take a vote.
We do not have any public speakers.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to echo the comments made by my colleague. It's unfortunate, this funding was originally set to go to a facility up in Branch Center that would have been double the beds, and we just couldn't make it all work, even with free land essentially being in the deal. But I am happy to see this public-private partnership where we're able to put this funding to good use with no ongoing obligation other than on an as-needed basis. I think that's a very elegant solution that gets us some capacity, but that hopefully, if the need diminishes, we're not on the hook to continue to fund it. Thank you.
All right, very good. County Executive Villanueva.
Thank you, Supervisor Serna. I just wanted to add on to the kudos for not only for Nick and County Council and the team behind me, but WellSpace was very flexible in their negotiations with us, and we were flexible with them. It was a very complicated contract processing with the state of California, the county of Sacramento, and then also WellSpace, but I think we all pulled together. We're looking forward to this kicking off and being done by December of 2026. But thank you for your support.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. No speakers. Please vote.
Unanimous vote.
Very good. Thank you. And we have 3 minutes until the next item. So we'll be in recess for 3 minutes. I'd like to call back to order this meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll and reestablish quorum?
Yes. Kennedy?
Here.
Desmond? Here. Rodriguez?
Here.
Hume?
Here.
Cerna?
Here.
And you have a quorum.
Great. Next item, please.
Item 48, you're acting as the Board of Supervisors in the Housing Authority of the County of Sacramento. This is the update on county's efforts to improve collaboration with the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency.
And Supervisor, as Deputy County Executive Siobhan Kathari makes her way up there, and Dave DeFonte. Just as a reminder, this is an item that the board requested in September of 2024 and then again on October of 24, which you directed county staff and SHRA to provide some recommendations to strengthen relationships and improve collaborations between the county, SHRA, and our shared partners. And with that, I'll turn it over to Siobhan to give her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Board. Siobhan Kathari, Deputy County Executive of Social Services, and I'm accompanied today by Dave DeFonte, Deputy County Executive over Community Services, because this issue crosses both of our shops. So just as a little bit of a backdrop, in the recent years, this board has been very interested in increasing your investments in the area of addressing homelessness. And as part of addressing homelessness, to make meaningful impacts, addressing affordable housing development and pathways into affordable housing through programs, rehousing programs such as the voucher program. And so over the past couple of years, we have had several opportunities to have workshops where we're addressing what we're doing around homelessness, and also where SHRA has been asked by the board to come and present on what SHRA is doing with regards to housing choice vouchers and with regards to affordable housing development financing. So today, what we want to talk about is the county's efforts to improve collaboration with SHRA, given the board gave us direction to do this last fall. So just in terms of history, just wanted to mention SHRA, and I know Director Dozier and her team are here, so can answer specific questions, but they are a JPA that was formed between the city of Sacramento and the county of Sacramento in order to do housing redevelopment, and is our public housing authority. And so last fall, the board had asked for SHRA to come and give a workshop on both affordable housing and rental assistance demonstration project and affordable housing financing, as well as the housing choice voucher program. And as if you recall, we were in a voucher shortfall last year and had several meetings around that to get updates. During the course of those two meetings that occurred September and October of last year, the board asked several questions and asked the staff to come up with some follow-up. So as outlined in the board letter, examples of some of the questions that you asked were around earlier and enhanced engagement regarding new affordable housing development projects that are being considered for financing, the development of a process or journey map for voucher programs, and consideration of what items go to the Sacramento Housing Commission, the commission versus coming to the board for approval. So the staff came up with 5 different recommendations that we'll go over today, and the first recommendation has to do with regularly scheduled meetings and briefings. And I just want to say that on the heels of you asking for heightened collaboration, CEO David Villanueva did set up a regular quarterly executive meeting between SHRA executive staff and county executive staff. So we've had 3 of those meetings so far. Additionally, there was a pre-existing meeting that SHRA and the county planning department were having around development projects. We have since January expanded the scope of those meetings to include other topics as well. And then additionally, one of our recommendations is to continue with those types of staff meetings, but also have county staff join board member meetings when requested. And so several of you have already started and implemented that, so county staff are attending your briefings at this point. And the reason behind this is just that heightened level of communication and collaboration we think is really important as our missions overlap so much. The second recommendation has to do with SHRA review and report back on the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Commission's roles and responsibilities. And if you recall, during the workshops last fall, SHRA did cover some of the differences between what goes to the commission and what comes to the board for approval. So our recommendation really centers around having SHRA come back to the board with a better outline of what falls under the board's authority versus the commission's authority, and then the board can make some decisions and take some steps to ensure that board members have the necessary information and desired level of decision-making authority for this. Based on your decisions, this may require us to develop an MOU or go back to the original JPA and make some changes there, but that's our second recommendation. For our third recommendation, I'll turn it over to Dave.
Good morning, Dave DeFonte, Siobhan's trusty sidekick. So recommendation 3
probably sounds familiar because this is something we've done time and time again at the county as part of our culture of continuous improvement. Really, this recommendation very closely mirrors what we did with our development process improvement initiative that I know you're all very familiar with. A couple of years ago when we kicked this off, we hired a consultant to come in and do a number of things. One, obviously with their subject matter expert, look at our policies, processes, customer service, all of those types of things, and offer both their technical insights as well as go out and talk to folks like you, your board, customers, others sort of in the field, and get some feedback from them as to what they thought the county was doing really well and what we might want to focus on to improve. So based on that consultant's work, they issued us a report a couple of years back, and that's sort of been the bedrock for us moving forward by way of our development process improvement initiative. So what we're recommending here is something that essentially mirrors that type of process. And I think there is, again, some overlap here. Obviously, what we're trying to solve for here at the county is for our housing supply and affordability crisis and, promoting infill development, et cetera. And SHRA is obviously a key partner in a lot of that. So the recommendation is essentially to conduct a similar assessment for very similar reasons. Again, policies, processes, programs, et cetera, around development-related financing, but then also to look at potential recommendations regarding management of the county's federal entitlement funding, such as CDBG. And I'll also note, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is something we do very routinely. Just in the last few years, we've conducted similar processes for DGS, DPS, finance, clerk of the board, and probably many others that I'm not aware of. In fact, you actually have an agenda item later today for IHSS that is a report back on a very similar process. And I think that one of the first sentences in that staff report actually sums up pretty well what we're looking for. It says, in fall 2023, the board requested a program of review of IHSS to highlight areas of strength and opportunities for improvement. So if your board does so direct that we engage in this, we would obviously work with SHRA and others to firm up a scope of work, because that has not been done to date, and make sure that that's solid before issuing an RFP for these services.
The fourth recommendation is very similar to the third recommendation. However, this would really be an independent assessment of the public housing and housing choice voucher functions. We believe that mapping out the process for how vouchers flow through the system can work to improve the customer experience and also heighten the collaboration between SHRA, the county, and our other community partners that provide rehousing supports, and would like to see if there's some opportunities to strengthen that process as well. And this is, I just want to point out, so this is something that during the Affordable Housing Development Plan that was adopted by the Board of Supervisors and the City Council that we developed as a result of the City-County Partnership Agreement, this opportunity is also highlighted there as something we would do. And then recommendation number 5, not dissimilar to what Dave just said about, when we do these assessments throughout the county and different departments, those county departments provide the funding to pay for it. So this recommendation is just really to align with how we do these other assessments and pay for these other assessments. So we're recommending that the board ask SHRA to provide the funding to do these 2 assessments, and that the county would hold the contracts for those.
Siobhan, can I interrupt real quick?
Absolutely.
So with regard to the value that the consultant, I presume, is providing in giving us some opportunities to consider or maybe, changes, maybe not even subtle changes to make or to consider making in terms of, our collective interests in a more efficient, effective way of carrying out the mission of both SHRA and the county as a whole when it comes to housing and homelessness, but and especially as it relates today, how we deal with uncertain federal resources. When those consultants provide their work product, have they run all the traps in terms of understanding very completely some of the nuances that I don't want to say are only known or understood by those that are in the agency, But in my experience there, I've seen consultants, provide an external look at things, and then kind of late in the process of assessment, they miss something because that's what they are. They're an external party from the outside looking in. So was there any kind of effort to make sure that whatever they're recommending doesn't miss the fact that there may be, again, some of those nuances that should be taken into account?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I think with any external assessment, and one of the reasons we wanted to keep these two assessments separate is they are very distinct and separate functions that SHRA has around development financing and then being the public housing authority. We definitely think it has to be done in a collaborative way with SHRA, who are the experts in their world. And it can't be done in isolation because we really do need those consultants to have some subject matter expertise, but more importantly, listen to the subject matter experts like any other assessment we do. Additionally, I would say thank you for bringing up the federal impacts. I intended to address that. I think we all know that on a federal level, there's uncertainty. We don't know what's coming our way, and the way the programs look today may be different than the way the programs look a year from now. And so one of the things that we want to be mindful of going into this is that we're collaboratively developing that scope of work with the board, with SHRA, so that we can maybe pivot if need be as we learn more about what those potential federal impacts are, and not do an assessment based on a system that exists today that may need to evolve and change and adapt tomorrow. So I'll ask Dave, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think to your point, one of the lessons we learned with the Development Process Improvement Initiative was the importance of speaking to staff. And that was one of the valid criticisms of that effort, was there was some engagement with staff, but frankly, maybe not as much as there should have been. A lot of conversations with customers, elected officials, et cetera. Some conversations with staff, but maybe not as much as we would like to have seen in hindsight. So I do think it's very important to tap that expertise of staff and make sure that whoever the consultant might be comes in with a level of expertise, but also benefits from the expertise by those they're talking with.
Great. Thank you. I assume this is the part of the program where you expected us to chime in and.
Yeah, we were thinking we'd go back to our seats because you may have questions for SHRA, of course.
I have a full queue here. So.
Okay,
yeah.
So we'll go back and then we'll continue to answer questions. And we're seeking, so today, just to wrap up, we are seeking direction on these recommendations so that staff can move the board's will forward after this.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. We'll start with Supervisor Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just kind of go through recommendation 1 through 5 in that order on just some brief comments, and I'll probably have something later. But as far as recommendation 1, I think this is vitally needed. Director Dozier and her staff do a very good job at keeping, at least I can speak for myself, I can't speak for my colleagues, but me informed of projects that are going on in the district. The problem is that we sometimes don't see the greater picture. We don't see what's going on agency-wide because we don't sit as they have a commission. So I think that we do need that enhanced communication and briefings that get us into not just specifics about a project by project, but also about policies and procedures and just bigger picture and even what's going on in other districts. Recommendation number 2, I think I've been on the record saying that my concern all along is that because we operate in this JPA, that it's different than any other JPA that we operate in a number of ways. One is the JPA doesn't meet. But beyond that, and it's almost unwieldy to do so, but beyond that, you have that layer of the commission, and as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware, it's the only JPA that we all participate on. We participate on a lot of them that has a layer between the organization and us. And the decision makers and those, and I think that commission dilutes our ability to provide our oversight function. And last time we were here, an SHRA staff member, forgive me for not remembering his name, specifically had a slide, if you'll recall, that called out, at least one occasion, the oversight function that is the board's legal obligation. But yet we don't do that. And when I questioned staff on it, the answer was, well, you do provide that oversight through the commission. That's not the same thing. That's not oversight in my mind. And if we're going to be held responsible legally for oversight, I think we should have a better mechanism to actually provide that type of oversight. For example, there was something, if I recall, it was the administrative program, might be the wrong words, but I think you know where I'm going, that specifically it called out that we, as a board, have a role of oversight. And I don't recall it coming before the board, unless I'm wrong. Number three, I you know, as someone who was a big proponent of doing the reports, that the consultant work that we did in the other areas that Mr. DeFonte referred to, I don't think, I mean, this agency's been around for 40 years. I don't see that there's anything wrong with taking a healthy look internally for potential system improvements. We're in a completely different world than we were in the 80s, with redevelopment no longer a part of the function, really. And so, you know, things have dramatically changed over the years. And I think it's healthy for any organization that has gone through such systemic change to look at itself internally and find out, you know, ask ourselves the hard questions. Are we doing what is relevant to today's world? Are we meeting the needs of a much bigger population in a complex county that we live in now compared to what we did then? In order to have those system improvements, I think taking a deep dive into how the organization works is extremely healthy. Another one, it says enhancing heightened coordination and continuous quality improvement. And I totally agree, but I would even go as far as to have another bullet at cost savings. I'm sure that I'm not the only board member who has heard a number of times how it seems to be so much more expensive to develop when we do it through SHRA than through other mechanisms. For example, in Supervisor Desmond's district, recently a hotel conversion, which was done as a public-private partnership, was done considerably less than sometimes they are. I'm not saying that that means that SHRA is doing anything wrong in that regard, but I'm saying we need to ask those questions and ascertain the answers and find out where we can do system improvements to actually bring the cost of the per door down. Finally, same thing with number 4. I do appreciate the fact that you have differentiated the two because the two functions are very different, but shedding light and transparency on what is a very complex, convoluted process, I think is also healthy for the community as well as the organization. Those are my comments at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'd first like to see, Director Dozier, thank you. I don't know if you had any introductory comments or you're going to be making comments as part of the presentation or just available for questions. Or okay. Because first I want to thank you. You and I met last week and really appreciated the opportunity for us to meet just one-on-one and discuss some of these things here. And I think it's very important for us to hear from you directly. So I agree with a lot of the statements from my colleague who's been at this a lot longer than I have. Already, number 1, I think we're seeing a lot of progress with these meetings. That sounds great. Number 2, it makes me think, you know, just kind of this discussion about the commission vis-a-vis the governing body. I think, you know, nature abhors a vacuum, and so does local government. And it kind of feels like the commission kind of filled this vacuum created by, I think, the governing body not being as engaged as it should be. And I agree. This is a separation between the electeds, who are supposed to be overseeing this JPA, and the entity itself. And I think that's an inherent problem. And I think, you know, I wasn't here when there was a meeting, an actual full meeting of all the JPA members. I don't know if we need to have another one of those anytime soon, but I certainly am in favor of at least maybe a committee being formed, or maybe some city council members and some supervisors being formed to just at least get together as JPA representatives. I think that's important. Kind of a little bit of an aside. In terms of the this number 2, and I was wondering if Dave or Siobhan, was part of your recommendation this would not be subject to any kind of outside evaluation about the governance, right? Why is that? Why you just figured that we would do this kind of internally, this evaluation?
I think what we were thinking at the time of creating this recommendation is that there's some very distinct roles that the board has and that the commission has that are outlined, and it's really just a matter of you all and SHRA figuring out if those roles should stay the same. I do think that an outside evaluator could weigh in on that, but it's a little bit separate and distinct from some of the other things that we're looking at from 3 and 4. But I'll have Dave add.
Yeah, and I would love SHRA's thoughts on this as well. But I mean, we could fold that into recommendation 3 if your board so desires to have, the outside consultant's perspective on that. Really, it's kind of a blank slate. Again, we haven't formed up the scope of work. We could sort of add as you see fit to that effort. So it could be handled really either way.
Okay. Yeah, I just think of it in terms of, this is a discussion about the governance, the coordination, the communication, and I think, that might be something that would be appropriate for an outside evaluation, not, of course, I guess, required. But in terms of number 3, I agree with all the comments, and I'm glad, Dave, I think you pointed out, or maybe Siobhan, and maybe this may have been in the context of number 4, how important it is to have someone who understands the organization. Obviously, Ray Carriage understood Sacramento County very, very well. And sometimes, actually it was the chair, I think, that brought this issue up. It can be counterproductive if you have someone come in who doesn't understand the intricacies. So that's certainly something to keep in mind. I agree with Supervisor Kennedy that with respect to number 3 and 4, just as a matter of good governance, it's important to always be willing to have someone from the outside, kind of a disinterested third party, come in and look at things. Someone who understands how things work, but look at how things could be done better for so many different reasons. But I do have a concern, and Director Dozier and I had this concern. How do we make sure that those efforts are not duplicative of some of the other reviews and audits and other things that SHRA already has to undergo? Because that is the last thing I want to see, is that we're doing redundant work, duplicative work.
Yeah, I think
in either number 3 or 4, and I'd like to hear.
No, I think that's
Director
so
Dozier's
important.
comment.
SHRA, similar to our other departments, has a number of audits and site visits and monitoring by state and federal agencies. And so I definitely think having the consultant, and this will be part of our scope of work, ensure that they're not duplicating efforts by looking at existing reports that have been done, by looking at existing audits, is going to be really important while we're developing the scope of work.
Okay, I think that's a priority of mine. I think probably others share that sentiment.
Supervisor Desmond,
Yep.
I'd just add too, this would be a partnership between us and SHRA to develop this scope of work. So hopefully that would be fleshed out as we're having those discussions.
Okay, great. No, I
And I'm
appreciate
sure the county and SHRA, we're both very busy, right? The last thing we want to do is make work that doesn't need to be done. So we'll be judicious in focusing that scope of work on, filling in whatever gaps might be as opposed to duplicating what's already existing.
Great. Well, I appreciate you both saying that, because obviously Director Dozier and SHRA are a huge part of this process. They will be equally as invested in this as anybody from the county is. That's my expectation. And part of our conversation was also that I don't want this to be something that is so onerous, so burdensome that it affects the day-to-day work that we're doing, right? That's an important consideration for me. And then in terms of the cost, what do we anticipate the cost could be for something like this? Any sense? If you don't know, that's fine too.
No, well, we don't know, but I would say similar efforts are in the 150 to 250 range. Again, without the scope of work in hand, it's really hard to opine. But given what we've seen in other efforts, I would expect somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay. And I know we've talked about this in the context of other evaluations we've done and departments paying for those, but I certainly would want to have a discussion about the cost, who bears the cost, do we maybe do split the cost for something like this? Certainly would want to have that discussion as well. So those are my comments for now. And I don't know if Director Dozier, do you have any responses to any of these things that I brought up? 'Cause I'd really like to hear from you.
Well, I think one of the things that's really important to take into consideration is, correct, it's always good to have an outside audit. We have had them over the years. I don't want to give the impression that we don't seek outside counsel and consultants to help us in areas of improvement. I think the most important thing and the thing that weighs heaviest on us is having staff resources to do this. My experience of working with consultants is that they cannot work in a vacuum, otherwise you're not going to get the product that you need, and that the subject matter experts, which are the staff at SHRA, are key as a part of doing any type of consulting and review. With that being said, if you recall, back when the budget was approved, we went on a very conservative budget because we did not know exactly what the federal government was going to fund us. We froze many positions. And because we froze those positions, we also had to pull back in terms of the service that we deliver for our clients while we're in this level of uncertainty. So as we currently speak, we do not have the staff to do what is being asked of us in recommendations 3 and 4. I'll just be very forthright. I mentioned this in our discussions with the county staff as well, and that is my largest concern. If we shift staff away from doing the work, then that means that we can't get people housed as quickly, we can't get inspections done as fast. All of those things will be impacted. SHRA is a flat organization. We do not have a lot of administrative staff because we do invest our resources in our line staff to make sure that the work gets done, that the inspections are done, and responding to the numerous audits that we have. And when I say numerous, we're talking over 40 some odd audits that we've had since the beginning of 2023. And these are very comprehensive audits that go into a lot of detail that takes a lot of time and resources to do. So that is my largest concern, is the impact that recommendations 3 and 4 will have on our ability to get the work done.
And I appreciate that, and I am extremely sensitive to that, and I think that's something that has to be part of the discussion if it's the will of this board to move forward with those kinds of evaluations. And I don't think of them as audits. I think of them more as a process review, systems review, along the lines of the CARES thing. But your points are well taken. Thank you.
Right. The other thing, I just also wanted to mention that we are in the process of going through a total conversion of our computer system. We have outside consultants who are coming in to help us. Part of that is to get the efficiencies that we need in terms of the program delivery, the efficiencies that we need in terms of our costs. It will take us about 2 years because it is a comprehensive system that will take all of our current resources in different systems and integrate them into one. So that is a huge and a heavy lift that we are in the midst of doing as well.
We have others in the queue here, but if Supervisor Hume will indulge me, I just wanted to take a moment and just based on what I heard from Director Dozier, which I appreciate the frankness as it relates to numbers 3 and 4. So if you're quite clearly articulating the fact that it is a bit of a Sophie's choice when it comes to the fact that we're working with, in your universe, finite staff that have to come from somewhere to do something else. That is the substantive work. Then I guess before I take a vote on anything here or provide input and direction on anything, I got to have some comfort level that there's going to be some resources, and I quite frankly don't care if it's what the color of money is on this one. But if we have a director of our housing authority telling us, no, staff are going to have to be pulled away, and county staff are telling us something different, that's way too ambiguous for me to kind of not fidget here in my chair. So I guess I'm looking to you, Mr. County Executive. What is the plan to reconcile what we just heard?
I think one of the things we need to do is, well, one, we're bringing this forward based on the request of the board to bring these ideas forward, and that's why we brought them forward, because of the conversations that we had back in fall. As we look at these things as far as the color of money, as far as paying this, I think we need to figure out what this is going to cost, and we can do that as we develop the scope and come back with some recommendations as far as funding. As far as staffing, I have to rely on Michelle and her team on the staffing side, and if it's the will of the board to not pursue these things, then we will go down that path.
When I say funding, I mean the total freight. I mean, not just the cost of the consultant. I mean, weaving into that the fact that and there's no reason for me to question what I just heard, then also the cost of, hiring internally, if that's again, part of the will of this board, so that we don't skip a beat, especially now when things are so crazy coming out of Washington and not having confidence in what and how we're going to continue to implement what is requested of us through, all kinds of HUD edicts and elsewhere. I got to have, speaking for myself, I got to have that level of security, knowing that we're not going to make the cure worse than, the ailment here.
Yeah, and we talked about the HUD impacts, and I think Siobhan mentioned that also, that the impacts coming down. And Lachelle was very clear that there's a lot of unknowns, and if any of the things that are coming true that she's hearing will be quite impactful to the local SHRA. But I think until we figure out what the scope of work is, maybe that's when we come back to you and get Lachelle's input on exactly how impactful this will be.
Okay. Well, for what it's worth, again, thank you, Supervisor Hume, for letting me go on here a little bit. I'm going to have that understanding of how we're going to do that before I can give you any kind of clear direction on 3 and 4.
Okay.
So, Supervisor Hume.
Thank you, Chair. And so I'll echo the line of discussion that was just going on here, that there are a lot of unknowns that need to be fleshed out about all of this. And so this simply being discussion and direction doesn't lock us into any particular one course of action. But I want to back up for a minute, because I'm seeing a very long face, a very familiar face, but a long face sitting here next to the county exec, and I see some familiar faces sitting up in the audience. And so I want to just say that as far as from where this supervisor sits, nothing about this discussion should be taken as an indictment or a criticism of yourselves individually, of the agency as a whole, or of the work that you are doing, okay? This is important work. So I just wanted to put that out there, that I think this is a healthy discussion to have. And as was mentioned by the deputy county execs, the county went through this process for ourselves with the carriage report. When I was at the city of Elk Grove, we were primarily a contract city in the early days, and we're looking at bringing services into house. And we did something that was referred to as the Sinclair report, which was a development services delivery process report. And so that's the first thing I'd caution, is if we go down this road, whoever we hire, this report's going to get named after them forever and ever. So make sure it's not a terrible name. But I hear what you're saying, and I hear the concerns expressed by the chair. But to say we're too busy doing what we've always done to stop and look at whether or not we can do it better is absolutely anathema to me. I have said those very things to our own staff. We should always be looking at processes. We should have secret shoppers coming through the front door and figuring out if we're doing it as well as we could be doing it. So again, I'm not saying that we're going to find this big scandal and there's smoke and there's fire and there's going to be this big uncovery, but my goodness, we ought to be able to take the breath to just peek around the corners and find blind spots. And blind spots build up over time. Cartilage builds up over time. I mean, there are things that I think a compliance audit is a very different animal from process improvement. And so I don't think that the two are synonymous. And so, I don't know about my colleagues, but I can tell you that I started bringing county staff into my briefings because we have this strange confluence of probably one of the top of mind things for our constituents, which is housing shortage, which is homelessness services, which is public housing, which is affordable housing, and then you have all of the complexities that go into it from a financing standpoint, from a program standpoint, from a voucher standpoint, from all of these things that it's like for a layperson that has 24 different balls being juggled at the same time, I don't even know what questions to ask. So it's just this onslaught of information and no way to parse through that and separate the wheat from the chaff. And so I think having I heard it referred to as disinterested, even though I think they would be a very interested party, but having, an objective observer to look at this, our governance model, the execution of the programs, and just making sure that we have efficiencies and effectiveness in this arena, for me, is a good exercise and is a worthwhile pursuit. So as was mentioned by the chair, there are some uncertainties out there that are going to need to be sussed out, but I think that everything here, obviously, number one is the lowest hanging fruit that ought to be done, but number 2, 3, 4, and number 5, I think is really the question that was just sort of asked is how do we pay for this given the constraints, given the uncertainties, and so I think I from my standpoint, I have a little bit of flexibility there of looking at this is a partnership, and we're looking at how to do our partnership better. But I just, and I apologize if I seem to say that aggressively, I just cannot get on board with the idea that we're too busy to look at whether or not we can do what we're doing better, ever. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, if Supervisor Rodriguez will indulge me. I just want to make clear, I completely agree with you, Supervisor Hume. My point is that, and I agree with recommendations 3 and 4. I support it. All I'm saying is that this is now an interest in an initiative of our own making, the board's own making. So let's be honest with ourselves. Let's be honest with county staff, SHRA staff, the public, about what it will entail in terms of making sure we don't sacrifice any substantive work to do it. That's my perspective. That's my point. And I don't think it should be viewed as controversial. I just think it should be viewed as being very open and honest with ourselves in terms of what that entails and what it will cost. And so that's my perspective. Supervisor Rodriguez.
So first I want to say that all of those recommendations I support, but I'm going to hone in on recommendation number 3. I want to commend this county for doing a self-evaluation of department processes, because to me that is like one of the best things that an organization can do. So having spent 24 years in the corporate world of healthcare, where the last 12 years had implementation of Lean Six Sigma. And it was one of the best investments that was made to the organization. And by the way, I worked for one of the largest healthcare organizations here in Sacramento County. And one thing I can tell you is that a paradigm shift it will be painful. It is very painful. But what I learned during that whole time is that optimizing processes will ultimately be respectful of staff's time and the people that do the work. And it ends up having a very strong business performance. I also want to share that in respect to what Supervisor Desmond said about optimizing processes being onerous, it will be. It is a very painful process to go through changes and to identify processes. What I learned during that time is that it's not about the people, it's about the processes and making it better for the people that do the work. And also to understand the importance, I think, County Exec Villanueva, one of the things that I think will be important to this board is to really understand the methodology that will be used, because I am in 100% support of implementing something like this that will allow us to enhance those process improvements. Anyways, my point is that it is one of the best investments that can be made to your organization and to departments, and it is painful to go through those type of experiences. But in the end, it is one of the best investments that can be made to identify over-processing waste and ultimately just improved department workflows. So that's just my experiences. I'm very supportive, and for my colleagues here that may not know or have experienced or been a part of that, is it is painful to go through that process, but in the end, it's very profitable. So that's my point. Thank you.
I think someone is, yes, okay.
I think one of the things that may be getting lost as a part of this conversation is the fact that SHRA has not done an assessment, and that is just not the case. We do have a culture of continuous process improvement. We have a person fully dedicated up until just a few weeks ago who left, and that was her entire job, was to look at ways that we could do process improvements. If you look at our website, if you look at how we deal with our landlords, we receive feedback from them constantly. We've updated their portal. We allow them to do everything online. In terms of our residents, we're developing a resident portal. That resident portal means that they don't have to come into the office. They can upload their documents. Each year when they do recertification, they used to have to bring in this huge packet of information, which is now all completely automated and uploaded. We're getting more and more individuals who are starting to lean on the technology that we're pushing out so that they can do it faster, quicker, and more efficiently. We're not an organization that is adverse to change, because we have been about change every few years. Something major has happened that has required the organization to pivot, from the loss of redevelopment, from, all of the different changes that have occurred. We've had to reshape the organization. We've had to reorganize how we get work done. And we do it so constantly, I think that maybe we don't talk about it as much as we should. We don't come before you and really walk through all of the different changes that we have made and that we continue to make. When I talked about this computer system, the reason that I mentioned that was to get to the efficiencies that we need to do to continue the process improvements, the continual change that goes on all the time. So I think that maybe if there's an opportunity for you to have an overview and understanding of all of those type of efforts and all of that work that goes on that feeds into, at the end of the product line, how our landlords engage with us, which is critical, how our clients engage with us, but also how we get the work done. People ask you to do more with less. Well, that's how we've been able to do more with less. We're a very lean organization. And I just want to make sure that that is clear to everyone here at the dais.
Great, thank you. Supervisor Kennedy, do you have a, okay. I feel like I've already chimed in enough. I think people understand where my concern lies. And I also go back to what Deputy Director Katari said about the process here of considering these recommendations. Remind us again, Siobhan, given especially what I've contributed here, what do you envision in terms of coming back to refine things, especially as it relates to outstanding subject matter related to personnel deployment and who's doing what and what that costs?
So we envision a next step would be to meet with SHRA to develop some questions or a draft scope of work, meet with SHRA, talk it through, and just determine what resources may be necessary and how we can go about paying for that before we bring recommendations back to the board. I would like to ask the question that came up about recommendation number 2, having to do with the governance of the commission, if the board would like that to be folded into the recommendations made by a consultant as well. So we're looking at not just process, but we're looking at governance structure. And if you'd like that, we'll fold it into the scope.
Supervisor Desmond.
So I brought it up as maybe an idea. I don't want to add more to this than is necessary, but I think it is important that that evaluation with respect to number 2 look not only at the current governance structure, how involved is that governance body in SHRA's activities, how may that be expanded, certainly vis-a-vis the commission. And also as part of that, what I'd like to see evaluated is the structure of the nonprofit, which I believe is sharp, and the elected body or the authorities, I think, involvement or lack of involvement in that as well. I really don't have, I guess, a preference at this point, whether that's done by an outside person or maybe just a evaluation jointly between county staff and SHRA.
Supervisor Kennedy.
Thank you, Chair. Siobhan, I think it's already in recommendation 2. I mean, it says their Board of Supervisors' role in decision-making. That, I think, is, part and parcel of what we're talking about as far as governance. Not to mention the roles and responsibilities of the commission. I think it's already in there. If I might, while I have the mic, if I, recommend that, do you need a motion on this? No, just direction.
It's not just direction at this point. We will come back to the board with a draft scope of work before we proceed with going out for an RFP.
Then I think we look at recommendations 1 through 4, and that will help us to determine what that looks like, and that will help us to develop a work plan and perhaps even a description of what the project would entail. And we don't even talk about number 5 yet because it's premature since we don't know what it is. That would be my recommendation.
All right. Ms. Travis.
I will say that the board's letter says approve the recommendation, so I do believe you would need a motion.
Okay. Supervisor Hume.
I'll go ahead and make that motion then, and I concur with the comments from Mr. Kennedy. But I would say that I did have fold number 2 into number 3, just in an aspect of exploring the processes, exploring the governance, exploring how we are doing things, because, again, the need is so great to make sure that we are being as effective and efficient as possible, including governance.
I'll second.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second, and I just want to make, I don't even want to call it a friendly amendment. It's more of a clarification with the understanding that we will expect when staff next visits this in public before us that there will be answers to the question about staffing and making sure substantive work is not sacrificed.
Yes, we will do that.
Acceptable?
Mr. Chair, can I ask you just a quick clarifying question?
Sure.
So just so I'm clear, you're suggesting that number 2, the recommendations number 2 would be folded into the kind of the consultant subject matter and number 3. Okay. Great.
All right. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone from the public sign up to speak on this?
We do not have any speakers.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Staff is clear on the motion? Okay. Please vote.
Unanimous vote.
Right. All right, we have closed session, do we not?
You do have closed session.
Okay, then we are in recess until 2 o'clock. Okay, I'd like to call back to order this meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll and reestablish a quorum?
Yes, good afternoon. Supervisors Kennedy?
Here.
Desmond? Rodriguez?
Here.
Hume?
Here.
Cerna?
Here.
And you have a quorum.
Very good, thank you. First item, please.
Yes, item 49 is the Antelope Petroleum PCN. It's a request letter of public convenience and/or necessity for a property located at 5873 Antelope Road at the corner of Antelope Road and Roseville Road in the Antelope community. And the environmental determination is not applicable.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I'm Leanne Mueller, Senior Planner with Planning and Environmental Review. And the project before you is a public convenience and/or necessity for a Type 21 alcohol sales. The project is located at 5873 Antelope Road. It's at the corner of Antelope Road and Roseville Road in the Antelope community. The site is currently undergoing construction for a convenience store, gas station, and a drive-through restaurant. The surrounding uses in the area include a vacant RD40 zone property to the north. The south and east are zoned light commercial, and to the west is the Antelope Station Special Planning Area. So a little bit of background for you. In 2017, the Board of Supervisors did approve a use permit for the 24-hour ARCO gasoline station, the AM/PM convenience store, a car wash, and then the 24-hour drive-through restaurant, which in this case will be a Sonic. The board also made a finding of public convenience for a Type 20 liquor license for off-sale of beer and wine. This license has not been issued by ABC. The current request is the public convenience and/or necessity for a Type 21 license. So this would be for the off-sale of beer, wine, and spirits at that same facility. So this is the exhibit. As you can see, it is the PCN, or the sale of alcohol, would occur in that ARCO convenience store. This is the 1 mile radius map, and what you can see is that the project site is located in Census Tract 8127. The city of Citrus Heights is actually the hashed area, so it is actually pretty close to the city of Citrus Heights. And for this 1 mile radius, there are currently 4 Type 20 licenses and 5 Type 21. The nearest Type 20 is across Roseville Road to the south. So, approximately here. And then the nearest Type 21 is to the southwest along Antelope Road. So one of the things that did occur is we did go out to the CPAC in November of 2024. They recommended approval of the project, and then we also have provided written notice to property owners, and there was nobody who provided written comments at the time that the staff report was written. So this project is, again, requesting the PCN for the Type 21 in the Antelope community. It is within a census tract that is classified as both a high crime and overconcentrated. So again, it is located in Census Tract 8127. It allows 3 off-sale licenses. Those have already been allocated, so this would further result in overconcentration in that tract. It is also considered high crime because it is in the Sheriff District 1. It is in the sub-area for Antelope, and that area does exceed the overall district average by greater than 20%, which is the threshold. The applicant has provided a justification statement, which was in your packet. They have indicated that the sale of beer, wine, and spirits would be a public convenience because the fuel station and convenience store is sized to serve the neighborhood with a variety of products, and that the community recognizes that AM/PM is a convenient and safe place to shop. The applicant did submit an additional letter detailing their operation to the board. It should have been provided as subsequent materials. So Planning and Environmental Review staff does recommend approval of this request for the following reasons. The CPAC community and reviewing agencies did not object to the type 21 alcohol license. The proposed license would increase the variety within that community, and the applicants have demonstrated that the sale of alcohol can be accomplished in a manner which addresses negative impacts pursuant to the county code. This concludes my presentation. I can answer any questions that you may have, and the applicant is also here to answer any questions about their operation. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for the report. Any questions of staff? Okay. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak?
We do not have any speakers for item 49.
Okay. Did the applicant in this respect would like?
The applicant is here, and
Okay.
I'm guessing they would like to speak
Sure.
on behalf of their project.
Yes. Please.
Good afternoon, Chair
Good afternoon.
Cerna and board members. Appreciate your time. My name is Diane Kinderman with the law firm of Abbott and Kinderman. I represent the applicant, CJ Dollywall, in this matter. We appreciate you, as I said, giving us a few minutes to chat. I'd like to thank, first of all, Leanne and her staff. They've been very helpful throughout this process of obtaining or seeking to obtain the PCN, as well as the prior approval of the project. Wanted to give you a quick update on the construction. They anticipate having an occupancy permit by the end of May. So we'll look forward to having the market, the AMPM market, the small fueling station, and a Sonic drive-through available to the public at that location. We had submitted a justification statement at the time that we obtained the Type 21 license. Yesterday, I submitted some supplemental materials, some of which reiterate the justification statement that was previously submitted. But since some time had elapsed, I just wanted to confirm that this family operates many AMPM mini markets, as well as Sonic drive-thrus, Black Bear diners, and some other QSRs, both throughout Northern California and Southern California. At their AMPM facilities, they do not have sheriff's complaints with any other police departments, and they run very clean, efficient, well-operated businesses. They are all managed by family members, so none of these are turned over to a management company. Every single one has a family member operating on site, which is one of the reasons I think that they're perhaps managed more efficiently. There aren't police complaints, there aren't neighborhood complaints either. So we talked about in the justification statement in the letter yesterday, I just reiterated the type of surveillance they have, the training of employees, as well as the desire of the customer who likes AMPM, and in this case also appreciates the Sonic. They do appreciate having the opportunity to purchase liquor if they need to purchase something when they're stopping off at a mini market. So the opportunity to be able to have the Type 21 is just going to provide another advantage to the customers that are already loyal to the AMPM brand. And so with that, if you don't have any other questions, or if you don't have any questions for me, I'm done with my presentation. I'm here if you've got any. Thank you. Appreciate
Great.
your time.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant's representative? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, we've heard from staff, the applicant. There are no further public speakers. Entertain a motion at this
I'll
point.
go ahead and move item number 49 for approval.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second? It's moved and seconded. Please vote.
And the motion carries with a no vote by Supervisor Hume.
Okay. Next item, please.
Okay. Item 50 is another request for a letter of public convenience and necessity for a property located at 4311 Antelope Road at the intersection of Antelope Road and Walegra Road in the Antelope community, and the environmental determination is not applicable.
Thank you. Again, good afternoon. Leanne Mueller, Senior Planner with Planning and Environmental Review. And the item before you is a public convenience and/or necessity for Type 21 alcohol liquor license. The project site is located at 4311 Antelope Road. It is located near the corner of Antelope Road and Wallerga Road in the Antelope community. This particular site is developed with an existing commercial building, which is a convenience store, and then a car wash and a gasoline service station. The zoning for it and some of the surrounding area is shopping center, and the area is largely developed with retail uses. The area to the south, though, is zoned light commercial, and it is currently vacant. And the property to the west is zoned urban reserve, and it is developed with a library. So the Antelope Food and Gas Station was established on this particular site in 2006. It is an active use that is in good standing. The business does have an active Type 20 license for off-sale of beer and wine that was issued in 2010. This license was not canceled, therefore the new owner is applying for a public convenience and necessity for the off-sale of beer, wine, and spirits. This is the site plan. Again, the sale of the alcohol will occur in the convenience store building. Excuse me, this is the 1 mile radius map. The project site is located in the southwest corner of Census Tract 7427. There are 7 Type 20s and 7 Type 21 licenses within 1 mile, with the nearest Type 21 being near the corner of Antelope and Wallerga Roads, and the nearest Type 20 is across the street. The Antelope CPAC did hear this item in December of 2024. They recommended approval, and at the time we wrote the report, there were no comments from the public regarding this. However, as of today, the applicant we have received comments that are in favor from the people who frequent this establishment. So this gas station requests the PCN to allow a new Type 21 license within an area that has the high crime rate. It is not over-concentrated. So it currently permits 4 licenses in that census tract, and it has 3. However, it is in the Sheriff District 1, and it is in that Antelope sub-area, and it is in an area that exceeds the district average by greater than 20%. Again, the applicant did provide a justification statement, and they have indicated that this is a public convenience because it will provide benefits to the community, such as enhanced convenience, economic growth, and responsible alcohol service. Planning and environmental review staff is recommending approval of this project because the community and the reviewing agencies did not object to the new license. The proposed license would increase the amount of variety within the surrounding community, and the applicants have demonstrated that the proposed sale of alcohol can be accomplished in a manner which sufficiently addresses the negative impacts identified in county code. Again, the applicant is also here to discuss their PCN request with you today, and I and the applicant can answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Leanne. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak on this matter?
We do. We have about 4 speakers for this item.
Okay.
Rodney Badley.
Good afternoon. My
Good
name is
afternoon.
Rodney, and I'm from the community. Been living in North Sac for as long as I know. And for this community, we have to leave out and go down the street and leave the area to buy certain things that this store doesn't have. So, I mean, it would be good in the community for them to have their liquor license in that area. But we'll have to travel so far.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley.
Welcome.
Pawan Kylie or Kaylee? I hope I didn't butcher that. Callie? Okay. Pawan Kelly. Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm speaking to you today not only as a member of the community, but also as a public servant myself with the California Franchise Tax Board, and also the son of Parmjeet Paul Calais. You know, growing up, I watched my father build his business through sheer, work, dedication, and integrity, which exemplifies, everything I represent with the state of California as well. He taught me the importance of being reliable, accountable, not just in business, but in life. Our family strongly supports his application, and we know that managing a liquor license requires dedication and care. Frankly, I don't think anyone else is, I don't know anyone more qualified than my father to, uphold his responsibility in the community. So he's proven his commitment to be a responsible business owner for years. Approving this license would be recognition of his dedication and would also allow him to better serve his community. So I urge you to please approve it, and that'll be great.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Appreciate it.
Devinder Sahota.
Hello, everyone. Devinder Sahota. I'm also the property and the station owner, as Paul and I have worked together for over 14 years. Great management. I rely on him on everything. And this is a time for him to grow on his own as well. And I know that he's going to do even better job maintaining involvement with the community and the safety of the community. And I'm actually here on behalf of one of his partners and his landlord. Thank you. If any questions, I'm available.
Great. Thank you very much.
Chris Evans.
Good afternoon.
Chris, you're looking dapper today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I dressed up just for you. Seeing you won't come have burgers. So I'm here today on behalf of the Antelope Business Community District, and I just wanted to say, in our district, we were formed in 2019, and the reason the district was formed, if you all remember, is 80% of our income, our money, goes into security. 8% goes into maintenance. So security and maintenance is why the ABC district was created. When we started to form this district in 2019, there was a few property owners that were very, very hard to convince that a P-bid would work. Paul was not one of them. Since day one, Paul has been an active member of the district, and he's been cooperative in everything we've needed done. The interesting thing is, I checked this morning, our security team averages about 6 calls a day, year-round. So that's 6 calls that Sac County sheriffs aren't taking, by the way, which I'm very proud of. In the last 6 years, we've had absolutely no calls for service to the mobile station. Every single time we go through, and we go through every single night at least twice, we've had no notes of any problems, and that's since 2019. So one of the things we were talking about earlier in the presentation, one of the 3 keys was reliability. And I think Paul's proven that he's reliable. He's run a good business in the district. He's supported the district. And again, last year when we went to renewal, he was supportive of the district. And remember, our district renewed with over 80% yes, and we took a 33% increase in our assessment because the district property owners realize security and maintenance is very important. Paul's part of that. He's part of our team. And I would encourage you to give him what he needs to move forward and grow his business.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
That concludes your public speakers.
All right, very good.
I'll go ahead and move item number 50 for approval.
All right, very good. There's a motion. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
And the motion carries with Supervisor Hume recording a no vote.
All right, and we are only 4 minutes off schedule. That's amazing.
Okay, for item 51, this is the fiscal year 24-25 in-home supportive services public authority review.
I will just start the presentation as John's making his way to the podium. I just wanted to, because Supervisors Hume and Rodriguez were not here at the time that we started this, the launch of this assessment, I just wanted to give a little bit of background, which is, if you recall, a couple of years ago, we had a series of meetings where IHSS providers were coming and speaking to the board about IHSS training and other conditions, as well as we had some advocates who were sending in public comment to the board, asking questions about the efficiency, the effectiveness of our IHSS programs. So in conversations that I had with you and with our CEO, we all agreed that it would be good to just launch an internal assessment of ourselves to see where our strengths are and where we could improve, which I think is a really good and normal and healthy part of doing business. And so John willingly said, yes, let's open this up and let's take a look at what we can do at the Public Authority to do better. So today he's going to present to you the findings of an independent study that was conducted by ASR, as well as the recommendations they made and steps that he and his team are taking to improve IHSS Public Authority. Thank you.
Thank you, Siobhan.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hopefully this is where it needs to be. My name is John Kazitsa, and I currently serve in the role of Executive Director for the Sacramento County In-Home Supportive Services Public Authority. Today we'll be reviewing the ASR recommendations, the report that you have. I'll reference a couple of pages in there. I am here this afternoon, and who's here from ASR?
I don't think ASR is here today.
Okay.
No.
I'm also here with Jeanette Johnson from the IHSS program. She's a manager, division manager over that program. And then myself here, I can answer any questions regarding the Public Authority. Naturally, there are many other supporting individuals regarding this presentation, so it's not just a few of us that you see up here. The report recommendations can be found on the ASR report on page 33. For this presentation, we took those recommendations and regrouped them into some related topics. So as we go through, you'll see that at the very end. As we move through the slides, we're going to cover three main areas. Initially, it's going to be the report development and summary of findings. Then we're going to go over the IHSS program overview itself, so you get a sense of the program on a whole. And then finally, we're going to go through the recommendations one by one, and there are 10 recommendations. And so the report was developed using a mixed method approach for data collection. ASR conducted interviews of key staff, and they were identifying the processes, the structures, and the services that were provided. ASR collected administrative data from the Public Authority and the California Department of Social Services. They did a survey with providers and recipients to gain their insights into their experiences with the program, their experience with providers, and their experience regarding the support that they received. ASR finally conducted a focus group with the providers and the recipients, and they had additional discussions regarding their lived experience with the program. So the mixed method approach here collects various perspectives of the program, operations, identifying areas that do work well, and other areas that we can certainly benefit with additional attention. So the fact is that inasmuch as it does take a village to raise a child, it does take various organizations and a lot of staff to operate the IHSS program. On page 11, there's a chart that will kind of give you a broad overview. To this point, the IHSS program is supported across three entities. The California Department of Social Services, which has oversight over the IHSS program here in the state of California, as well as specifically provides with a payrolling system to help pay caregivers. The County of Sacramento supports the local IHSS recipient and their case management, as well as provides payroll staff support for local caregivers. And then the Public Authority, which supports the recipients with provider referrals, as well as training for providers and recipients, and we do the provider enrollment process to enroll caregivers into the program. So I'm sure you heard of the 10-year overnight success phenomenon. Go to the next slide here. The strengths identified here are a continuous effort started years ago by many other individuals and led by two previous directors. Like them, this office has continued to strive toward the goal of helping our customers get through a very complicated and technical process to receive the help that they need. Aside from the tools that we use to do our jobs, ASR noted that our program is fueled by the passion of staff across the entire IHSS program. This is a characteristic that I have continuously witnessed since I've been with a public authority in 2012.
John, before you,
Am I ahead?
Yeah, before you leave that slide. So the title of the slide, oops.
This one?
Yes. So the header says strengths.
Mm-hmm.
You go down to the bottom, it says satisfaction with the IHSS public authority support, and 70% of providers are satisfied. So tell me about that. Is that how is what would otherwise be a C- a strength here? I mean, it's I understand it's not like grading necessarily, but when I think of something that I'd want to promote as a strength, I don't know that 70% of anything really comes to mind. So what is it? Is it relative? Is it compared to other authorities, or?
So again, in the bigger picture, and I hadn't quite gotten to those slides yet, the program is rather vast and it's been growing on a continuous basis, ongoing. Our staff has remained relatively flat over the years, even despite COVID, and the program has continuously been growing. We've been integrating both positive work environment, cross-training, as well as technology along the way to try to be able to maintain a satisfaction of our demand. So without delving into the statistics, and that's where I would have looked to ASR to provide the data analytics on how that came up and what that really means, I couldn't say that that was a bad thing, to be honest with you. With knowing how our environment is and the resources that we've not had over the years, and that's just an environmental thing, it's nothing specific. We overall have been, and we do feel like we're doing a really good job, especially at this point. Our workload relative to the demand in our staff is balanced. We're not doing the best, but we are by far not doing the worst. And again, several other slides around here will give you a little bit more of a perspective of the size of the program relative to our small office.
And Supervisor Cerna, I would add that ASR actually did categorize that as a strength, and I think the board knows there's some inherent challenges with the way IHSS and the public authorities are structured at the state level that make it difficult to either mandate trainings or provide the right kind of compensation for providers. And so I would say that this is something ASR tried to weigh and take into account when they were looking at the nature of the program, then coupled with those responses, if that makes sense.
I suppose, but the way I read it, despite future slides here, that was a lot of explanation you both just gave. So it seems to me that if you're going to have a slide that is thematic to what you're promoting as strengths, but it says, it's basically the conclusions from a survey here that only 7 out of 10 folks are feeling like they are satisfied with the authority's support. Then provide some detail when I'm looking at that number, I guess is how I'm feeling about it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which you've just done, but still,
Definitely fair, and I know the full report's attached, but room for improvement for sure, and I think that's something John wants to talk about is some areas where he's going to want to improve in the upcoming months.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an overview of the IHSS program side of it. So this on the county side, there's a little over 40,000 recipients in this program. Receiving in-home assistance, and this is to help them remain safely in their home. And this will avoid them going to an institution where they don't really need it if they can get a little bit of assistance in their home. In order for this structure to work, the recipient has to be the employer, and this is part of the challenge in the program. There's a lot of responsibility that comes along with being an employer and some rules that need to be applied, and that's not always the best situation or circumstance. On the right-hand side are some statistics regarding the applications, home visits, phone calls that staff have to deal with relative to the positions that they have in the program at the moment. This next slide is about public authority. and a little bit about what our focus is typically on the provider. We do support the recipient with referrals, mediation, customized lists to the extent they offer us the opportunity. But caregivers go through our office within the County of Sacramento to get onboarded so they can be paid through the IHSS program. There is no license required to be a caregiver. This program is to support assisted daily living services. There are some paramedical services that could be provided, but the responsibility of training and monitoring is on the recipient and their medical staff, doctors, nurses, and so forth. On the far right, you can get a sense of the volume of activity that we have in our office with our positions that we have. This year for enrollment is typically a good indicator, and we're a little over 9,000 for the last completed fiscal year. Those are the number of caregivers that are coming through our office and that have completed enrollment. We recently, in the last couple of years, have received some additional positions. Prior to that, we were pretty flat. And so we're just now hiring, starting to train, and implement them into the program. And this is where, going forward, we're looking to put some more focus on these other areas, so such as the 77% areas to be able to, we'll have the staff to be able to do that, but we've not had that in the past relative to the program continuously growing. So this is a slide that will highlight a variety of staff communicating on a whole variety of technical issues across the board. This is what's speaking to the concept of it takes a village. The flow chart on page 7 of the report gives you that overview. It'll show the IHSS process, and it'll give you a sense of a day in the life of staffs continuously communicating with each other on various technical aspects of caregiver enrollment, payments, recipient support, in some cases mediation, and overall program management. So you add to this the practicality of communicating between 3 different entities, depending on the specific circumstances of a single customer, and it gets a little more complicated. So our staff's level of proficiency, knowledge, really has to be at a higher level just to deal with one particular caregiver's unique circumstances as they manage this rather complicated process. So knowing this, we do accommodate a lot of customers that come in relative to their situation, and that sometimes it dictates it's out of their control, really, and so we do our best to try to make this go a little smoother for them than it otherwise would in a little more traditional approach. So this next slide is going to talk a little bit of a comparison over about a 10-year span. It just takes cases from the IHSS recipients, and it just shows you that during that period of growth, there's a little over 60% growth in just the IHSS cases. For us, for the public authority, we focus more on the providers, and enrollment is an indicator of our program activity, because with each enrollment, we have a cascading event of communications going on. We have a public counter, email, phones, paperwork on the back end that we've got to track to sync up with the other pieces of their process before we send it over to payroll so they can actually get enrolled and get a number and move through the additional checks and balances that they have to do on the payroll side. So from our end, within that 10-year span, we've grown about 30%. To show you what we've done, how we've kind of flexed a little bit over the years. Initially, pre-COVID, we were doing in-person enrollments, so you had to show up on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at about 8:30, and we filled seats on a first-come, first-served basis. And as the program was growing, we started turning people away, and that was progressing to a certain point. So we had 3 orientations in a week. We had about 135 seats, and it was all morning, so it ran about 4 hours, and we had about 15 positions in place to support that. Each year, the program was growing. So after COVID, we were able to get some online services through vendors. So we were able to provide a hybrid enrollment, so caregivers could actually start their enrollment online, do a lot of the data entry, do the manual work on their own as far as typing in their information, watching all the videos, and they could do that 24/7, and they could do that at their leisure. The biggest benefit here is that caregivers did not have to take time off work in the morning or all day, which was a common comment that they made to go to orientation. And it became more of a challenge as the program was growing and we started turning more people away. We were having to turn people away who were having to take time off, and they had no guarantee they were going to get in. So that became a concern on our part, to be honest with you. So in person, so all morning. Online, so we were able to expand it to 315 seats, which we currently have. 9 orientations, so that's 3 a day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. We have 2 morning, 1 afternoon. And on that note, again, to our accommodation element, if individuals who come in the morning for a scheduled appointment aren't able to attend because they don't have a proper ID, social security numbers, names don't match, there's a variety of details that may not match, we will offer them the ability to come back later. If they can go and resolve that, and usually there's a fair number of them can, they can come back later. And so usually our 2 o'clock is really full because of that accommodation that we do. Again, we try not to put people back into a system, into a process. It takes time for them, and it takes time out of us, and it takes time from us to help somebody else. So we do have online appointments which are in advance. So individuals can, in fact, schedule a day and or a time and or an appointment that will work for them so they can limit their any time off from work that they have to take. And at that point in time, we were up to about 20 positions. So we got a few more the prior year. And since then, we've gotten a couple more positions as well. So now we're going to go over the recommendations. We've grouped them into certain subjects that seem to be related. First one is technology. So this talks about the investment in technology to support offloading the manual work. We've already got some of that going on now. Developing a system so that we can track data, so that's going to give us a better ability to manage our workload and identify areas that we can actually focus on. We are doing some of that now, but a database would actually be much more efficient at it than our current process. And then also offering an increased access and opportunities. And a learning management system is an option that we have. We are currently talking about a database in-house with DTEC, so we'll have to work with them to see what would make sense as far as maybe getting something now, and they may develop something a little later. Supporting staff wellness, it was pointed out in the ASR report, the level of contact with our customers can be demanding, and so it's important for us to be able to take care of staff so that they can continue to provide the good service and the quality of service that we are offering. Community partnerships, alternative education options, support groups. These two really focus on an outreach effort to connect more with the outside community, basically get us out of the office, to be fair, and connect with the community in different areas. So take our business to where they are more than having them come to us. We were looking at this in the pre-COVID, and COVID just didn't allow it after when that came by. But us trying to have orientations in different areas, education classes in different areas so that the individuals have more access to it and not have to come into our physical space in our one location. So this is something that really is a larger outreach focus on our part. Employment relationships, this talks about the employer-employee relationship structure that exists in this program in order to make it work well. And this is about educating recipients. Also, the recipients express an interest in learning more about the caregivers before they hire them or to help hire them. And there was also a comment about trying to bridge that relationship at that initial hiring moment or when they do show up for work so that there's a little bit smoother transition when someone new is coming into your home. And there's a little bit more of a discussion about how this employer-employee relationship works in a personal home and some of the responsibilities associated with that. And then provider outreach, which is a common theme across everything. Again, kind of going old school, you're in one place, everybody comes to you. In the future, it's not so much virtual as much as it is getting to other locations, because the virtual world will allow us to take our technology someplace else. We really just need a meeting space for that. And so that's what this one talks about, improving the enrollment experience and then trying to improve the provider pool itself. So the first recommendations, 1, 2, and 3, really have to do with technology. Currently, we do have a vendor that we started in 21-22, so this is what allowed us to go online and start to create a blend for our enrollment process and allowed us to expand our seats and the number of orientations that we have. It also allows us to do our scheduling a little better, a little more efficiently, so if we know staff's going to be off the following week and we don't have enough support, then we don't overcommit. Well, however, the reverse of that also happens. If we do commit and we have the flu, and there are times when we've had 50% of our office was out with colds and flus, whoever was left, myself and all the rest of the staff, we shifted to be able to support those appointments that we made a commitment to a week in advance. So this does have a dual-edged blade on that one. Care Academy is an online vendor that we took contract with in 22-23 to help expand the training option. So we still offered what we offered in person, but this would allow individual caregivers and recipients, if they wanted, to get whatever training was available in there on a variety of subjects. Future, again, we're in conversations with DTEC about an in-house database, so it has potential for continuous expansion and adaptation to the changes in the environment. And we can talk about purchasing a learning management system if that would work in tandem with the other process. So recommendation 4 had to do with supporting our staff so that they could be healthy and available to support other individuals. And in about 7 years ago, we did go through a culture change in our office, and we were working pretty diligently about adjusting our environment. It did take a long time, as I think you will know with a culture change, it's not something that happens quick. But we have made a lot of progress, and it's to the point that we are able to promote from within, which is something that prior to this we were not able to, and that was a complaint that staff was commenting to us. We also have staff that actually want to return to work, so they've taken promotions someplace else, and they've called us back and say, hey, if you have a spot open, would you consider? And so we've been able to hire some individuals back. Ultimately, we also have individuals who are willing to work for us on a lateral without taking any additional pay. So they're willing to change their environment just because of the environment and not because of the pay. So we have been working diligently in that particular area. We do focus on workload level balance. This is what I was talking to you about. Currently, with our staffing levels and the demand and the resources we have, we are pretty much maxed out as far as not able to take more work. We do balance it. We do make accommodations, so we're about as efficient as we can get at getting everybody through. But it gets to a point where if we start to take on more just to get widgets through the door, staff's going to burn out. At least that's our concern and what we're hearing. And so we really focus on trying to manage that workload, hence the scheduling in advance relative to the available staff. We do offer training. That is one administrative part that we need to focus more on going forward. And we are supporting, again, the work-life balance with staff. So you take time off, the goal is you're off. You don't need to worry about work. You're not coming back to a big pile on your desk. We have a structure and a balance in place to be able to accommodate that. Going forward, really continuing with that and administratively putting in some structures so that we can continuously support staff in training, making sure we have proper management of the workload so people are not being overworked, if you will, on a long-term basis, which is really a key. We all actually do adjust relative to the workload. Again, people are sick, but we just pick it up and then keep moving. So we're looking for continuous training. We do try to offer flexible schedules if we can. It's really dictated by the work environment. We're pretty much an in-person type of service, so it's really hard for us to have a remote type of activity without additional software, which we are looking into. But our service is pretty much in person and helping individuals that come into our office. Recommendations 5 and 6. This one's speaking to alternative educations and support groups. Initially, again, currently we have an online vendor for training. We do in-person classes. We still will do in-person classes. There actually is a consistent request for a physical in-person communication, kind of a networking medium from this particular community. Going forward, I really see partnerships being the key to expanding our services, and that is not just finding a different physical location, but actually partnering with other organizations, educational institutions, other type caregiving institutions, and using our combined resources to reach the same population. This would assist with both getting the knowledge out there for caregivers as well as soliciting individuals to be caregivers for our registry, so we can refer those individuals out to our recipients. This could include community colleges and any other nonprofit or organization that would be willing to support this, to include the unions as well. So the goal is the customer. What do they need, and how can we get to them with the resources that they need? Support groups. This has existed in the past. Essentially, the way they were kind of operating. Again, this population does like to have a meeting where they can converse. More so now I'm hearing with the virtual world, that's fine, that helps, but people like to communicate with people. This is a in-person type of a service. So we do deal with a lot of people at the front counter, and we try to help them there. When we have our orientations, they're designed such that we have that customer in our office right then and there, and they have our attention, and we give them the time they need to satisfy that opportunity. Meaning they could talk to us for 5 minutes, and if they're good, they have no questions, nothing's confusing, then they're on their way and they move through the system rather seamlessly. If they have challenges, they have questions, they could spend 10, 20, or 45 minutes with us, with that same staff person, until they get all of their questions answered. And even then, if they need to go to the front to get a little more assistance, then we would support that as well. Our goal is that they get what they need once, and they avoid having to come back, avoid an email, avoid a phone call, but move through the system with the structure that we put in place to get them there as quickly as they possibly can. Again, here, support groups, we could expand out into the community through other mediums, community colleges. I'm back to outreach. That really seems to be our nexus to the community. We are looking to improve the website. We could do that better. The county is going to be going to a new system to meet web accessibility, and so we're hoping that has some features to allow us to utilize the internet a little bit better from our websites. Recommendations 7 and 8. This speaks to training for recipients on how to be a fair employer. This is a challenge in this program. It's being an employer is not easy, and the individuals are at home. They don't have a lot of flexibility to do a lot, so they have a learning curve, to say the least. We help out as best we can across the board, and individuals that do come to us, we help them. When they are having challenges with the caregivers, if they come to us, if we connect with them, we're mediating between the two to facilitate payments of checks, to facilitate understanding of misunderstandings, get them another caregiver, whatever it takes on that note. But this particular subject is a challenge for this entire population, to be honest with you. So if you don't have a family member that can smooth out this real quick, real easy, it's more of a challenge for individuals who are isolated, individuals who are older. This is a layer of, I don't want to say bureaucracy, but it's a layer of responsibility that's just can be too much and overwhelming. So again, we're back to connecting them with services, really, to social workers. We do referrals to family service workers, social workers, depending on what that need is, to try to get the individuals a little more knowledge. And I'm back to outreach to try to make sure we can stay connected with the individuals. Clarity of information. This speaks to currently we do customized lists, and we do refer individuals out of a variety of providers. But this really speaks to the recipient's need to understand who the caregiver is a little bit more than just a name on a list, making a phone call, having an interview, having an on-site come into their home and interview them more to see if they will actually fit in their relationship, because this is a personal business, and so if someone's coming into your home, you really need to feel comfortable with the individual that's going to be providing some personal care services.
Excuse me, John. We have a question from Supervisor Desmond.
Thanks, John. And I was going to ask this at the end, but the slide on here you're talking about the recipients and some of their challenges that they face in a number of different areas, but inherently it's such a vulnerable population. They need, I imagine, a lot of them need a lot of hand-holding on what their rights are, what their obligations are as an employer, right? And I'm thinking back to my time when I was on the Adult and Aging Commission, and I remember when we were starting IHSS, and there were concerns about fraud and people taking advantage of those who were in these vulnerable populations. And I was looking at your survey. There's about 20%, I think, of the recipients. So 20% of the recipients are either extremely uncomfortable being in that role as an employer, and of the 20%, 16% cite lack of trust, which I think this evokes these ideas of maybe someone might be taking advantage of them. What are some safeguards you have in place? Rather than them coming to you, what are some safeguards that you have in place to make sure you spot that, if possibly that is happening in one of these employer-employee, employer-provider relationships?
Well, we in our office, and most of the, if not all of the IHSS program staff, are mandated reporters. So the extent that we are communicating with an individual and they give us any indication that fraud or abuse is happening at any level, we will refer over to, I think it's APS, to make a referral so that there's an investigation done independent. We don't always know what that result is. That's kept confidential on that side, but we will report that. We will mediate if we can. We will, if we have any kind of disciplinary actions that we can take, an independent investigation on ourselves to try to see who's a source or what the dynamic is. We'll follow that path as well. Our customers have to come to us. In this particular case, we're here to offer the services, so that's where there's a kind of a challenge for that group, that if they don't reach out, one of the characteristics we do see every once in a while are customers reaching out to us late. So they're isolated, they don't have neighbors, friends, so forth, and they call us at the last minute. I'm not kidding you. They call at the last minute for help, and we do our best. And I will tell you, staff has gone beyond to do their best after hours and found means by which to get them food for a couple of days till the office opens up again and we can get other services to them. That's where accident care comes into place for us as far as an urgent care type of service. But none of that happens immediately. So the safeguards are there.
I think about, again, the vulnerability of some of the providers and making sure we have proactive ways to identify these things short of you happening to be in the right place at the right time. Are there opportunities that we help create to identify a negative situation if it's occurring?
Well, and the opportunities is really the point, is the more we can stay connected with the community, and this is where you're talking about networking, support groups, other organizations that we can be connected with, it just leaves more opportunity for us to hear what's going on and to do something in a positive manner. It's just like everything else. The earlier we can know, and the earlier any of us can know, social workers, family service workers as well, the more we can do something a little faster and help avoid what was progressively going down a particular path. And we do our best when we do hear about it.
And I just want to bring it up because I just saw that one, the statistic in the report. So thank you.
Supervisor Desmond, I'll just add that the county has a fraud hotline where people can submit things, either call us, email us, or we also have a website that they can call in, and those things go to our audit team and to our audit committee that also looks on them, and as we find them, we pass them to the relevant departments. So that's also an opportunity outside of what John's doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's just this population is unique in some circumstances. They're not able to report. It may take some other third party, a neighbor or other family member noticing something that might be unusual to report. So thank you, David.
Yeah. And we do get those reports, and we do hear from those particular individuals. Mostly in our office, we find that we catch the people that fall between in the bureaucracy that just doesn't quite fit, and we find our office spending more time there. And so that's where there's a lot of one-on-one time with our staff. Okay, next slide. So this is recommendations 9 and 10. This one's speaking about improving the experience. Again, we've migrated away from in-person to hybrids, trying to provide more flexibility for the customers. And we do a lot of accommodation in our office for anyone coming into our office, depending on what their circumstances are. We really try not to get them to have to restart. That's a task that is really a challenge, but we do put a lot of attention there. Going forward, we're again talking about off-sites, anything about reaching out into the community. So we are talking about not just outreach, but trying to connect with different organizations and locations. It is increasing staffing. This is an intense first-person, in-person kind of service that we provide. We are moving in June, July, so we will be expanding our facility to be able to accommodate what we are dealing with in our current fractured office makeup, as well as looking at the long-term program growth and what we are expecting over the next 5 to 10 years. And our current office would not be able to handle that kind of a capacity, that kind of a demand. In that move, we are looking to upgrade our electronics so that we can take advantage of virtual worlds. So people don't, if they can't make a class, then we can offer a virtual. It will also support our advisory committee and their ability to be a little more remote too when we have those meetings as well. Broadening the registry pool. This really speaks to outreach. We do some outreach now. We've not had a lot of opportunity. Really, staffing is what it comes down to. We're focusing on getting the individuals that do come to our public counter, that do come to our enrollment, and the demand that we have there is our priority to get people timesheets, to get those through so the recipients have available caregivers to serve them. So going forward, there is a focus on outreach, and this is across the board on just about everything in our office. We can enhance our support. We are working toward that again with the technology and or additional staff. One of the features going forward would be a portal that we are looking into, and that's pretty standard now, but that would help to connect us better with our customers, both with on an efficiency level as well as providing them with services, getting to know what they need a little faster than having them drive to our office and take a number and get to the public counter. So ASR reached the conclusion we were doing not too bad with all of the challenges over the last several years. What I've wanted to point out here is both the 10-year overnight success, and it takes a community, but that it's a continuous learning process. It's requiring a feedback loop that keep alignment with our customers' needs. And surveys and getting that feedback is one of our outreach efforts on a going forward basis. So to sum up the progress efforts of everybody, I wanted to read a thank you note we received this last fall, in addition to all the food and the flowers and the thank yous that we do get on staff across the basis. And I will say that has progressively increased over the last 2 years to anybody in our staff. It used to be those people that you knew, and they always had a smile on their face, they always got the compliments. But right now, we get it on a variety of staff. There's no boundaries in this particular case. But let me read you this thank you card. I think it will speak to the collective efforts that we have. And we received this in December of 24. I cannot express how much your response to my inquiry meant to me. I told all the people familiar with the case about you. It's people like you that give me hope and encouragement not to give up or despise the system. So with that, I will leave it with some questions.
All right. Thank you, John. Supervisor Kenny.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, John. I don't think there's anybody in this room that will say anything other than the work that IHSS and their providers is some of the hardest work we do in the county. It is, and it's also some of the most important for a variety of reasons from a humanistic standpoint, but it also, I'm a firm believer, does save the county money in the long run. But so ASR did basically this is a program review to identify areas of strength and opportunities for improvement, which kind of sets the baseline, and it's good work. I think that we have identified those things, but is it going to be followed up with, I almost think it needs a third column. We have, the strengths, the opportunities for improvement, and then more of a specific action plan that help us get to address those opportunities for improvement. Baseline's great, but I'm just looking for a little more specifics on how we get from point A to point B where we all want to get.
Well, we have had a plan in place to expand technology to reach out into the community and not stay in our office. I mean, that was a need I saw a long time ago. You got to get out. There is a need in the community to be out, have remote offices, if you will, but now they can be virtual and we can travel. We are currently working with DTEC to develop some technology that's in-house, so it will offer us the security that we need, but it'll offer us a long-term comparative data analysis so that we can identify what we need. It'll allow us to do surveys, which I think is the critical closing of the loop as far as what we do, how well we do it or don't, and where we can put our time and our attention. Because we have limited amount of resources, and that's been the biggest overall struggle across the program, and I'm sure even further out. But for us, with the intensity of customers, the volume, we cannot turn a customer away. They show up, we have to serve them. That's been the biggest demand. Our office this last 6 months from July 1st through December, we spent 64% of our labor time, that's people in the office available to work, on provider enrollment. That supports a lot of in-person attention. That means that we need more resources on the other end in some respects so that we can not let that go. So we're taking Robbie and Paul to pay Peter kind of a scenario. So going forward, we're doing the efficiency aspects, but ultimately we are going to need staffing aspects because this is an in-person service. Technology will help up to a point. But this technology has been pushed on this world a little too fast with COVID, and so this population we see a significant or a material amount of time we spend just trying to deal with that. We have a kiosk up front that we can help someone come in and work online so they can get through the process. We spend time in the lobby with people on their phones, on their tablets. We've offered trainings for people who want to come in. They don't want to deal with it. They just come in. They'll spend 4 hours of their morning, and we will literally help them one by one working through the technology and learning and answering their questions that they want. So there's a combination. We are technically savvy, and we are working toward that end, but that's only going to help us so far. What we need to try to do is offset that in-person part. But along the way, the program is growing. We're looking at, I think, across the board, about a 5% growth over the next 5 years. I think that's what we've been experiencing.
Supervisor Kennedy, if I can, excuse me, John, if I can just intervene, it sounds like what you're asking for is maybe a more specific action plan with some metrics and what timeframes and things like that, if that's what I'm hearing. Right. So certainly I think that's something John can come back to you with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, we had a robust discussion earlier today about another area of the county business that, I don't want to, pull people off there doing this important work to do busy work by any means. I also don't want to see the good work that ASR and your staff and everybody has done on this project end up on a shelf without specific deliverables that we know that, A, we got our money's worth out of it, but we're also serving the organization as well as we can. And this isn't 30,000 feet, but it's not 10 either, So I think that there's some room in there to come up with some specific deliverables that I think would take this to the next step. And that's not a criticism by any means. It's just trying to...
Well, we can work something on, I know on the technology side, that's a project, so that can develop a timeline.
Right.
If, I don't know, we can identify some other areas where we can put resources toward, because this is really a balancing act right now.
I understand.
In our office, and I'm being very fair about this, and I've had this discussion with staff on an ongoing basis, can we handle more? And the answer is, yeah, we can handle more, but the sacrifice is going to be on staff. There's only so much. Our days are busy as it is. They're scheduled. What you're doing almost every minute of every day. If we add more volume to that process, it's going to start to extend the line, and it's going to start to delay the paperwork on the back end, and that's going to start to delay the timesheets getting to the individuals to get paid. We can squeeze a little more out, but there's not a lot there without more staff. A little more technology would certainly help. I have no doubt about that. But there's only so much that we can squeeze out of that in current times. So, but I'm happy to identify something.
Okay.
Put a plan together for that. That would be fine.
I respect that. Thank
and
you.
That might be something we can maybe update on a regular budget cycle, if that would be of a placeholder for it.
I'm only chuckling here because it's like we saw this movie in the morning. I'm not trying to be a smart ass here. I'm just saying that we had the issue that Supervisor Kennedy referenced earlier had to do with a totally different subject, but the whole issue of substantive work versus, I think he put it well, as busy work is something that I think we're sensitized to now. So we want to make sure that, we want to improve where we can improve, but we also want to know at what cost is that is involved to do that. And before we get to Supervisor Desmond, who's been waiting patiently to chime in here, I'll just add to what Supervisor Kennedy, I think, very appropriately suggests in terms of, taking the next step in terms of actionable changes or, improvements, I suppose. I'll just go back to my earlier comment. If it's 70%, we don't have 70% approval, and we haven't asked the questions, well, what would get us to 100? Then we've only left this exercise kind of half-baked. So I think he's spot on in terms of prompting us to do the next thing here to figure out how to do better, be better. Certainly not a criticism of the great work that the authority does and its practitioners and its service folks, but that I can't help but still go back to the one slide, and 70% just doesn't blow me away. If it was 90%, okay, now there's something to talk about. So we got room for improvement.
Absolutely.
Supervisor Desmond.
Thanks, John. Thank you, Mr. Chair. John, I just want to thank you for the presentation. And I do think it's great anytime we have anybody willing to open themselves up to disinterested third-party scrutiny. Disinterested meaning impartial. They're not uninterested. It's just, I am a big supporter of IHSS, notwithstanding my comments about always being concerned about those who are the most vulnerable. But it's a commitment to our values that, as a society, anything we can do to keep people from being institutionalized, right, which is where so many of these recipients would be. And I agree with Supervisor Kennedy. I mean, there is absolutely a cost savings, but there's a moral cost savings to it as well. So thank you very much for the presentation and your work.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments from board members? I don't see any. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak on this matter?
We do not have any public speakers.
All right. Again, thank you, John. This is a receive and file and information only. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next item.
County executive comments?
Thank you, Flo. First off, I'll start by welcoming Flo back. I know she's been out for a bit, and so we're welcoming him, and also thanking Nicole, who's quietly sitting in the back, for her great job that she's done. We did have a great interaction here recently at our international airport. We had some very nice feedback from a customer who was traveling through the airport. A gentleman called our voice and left a voicemail at the Department of Airport talking about how clean the restrooms were now and how the custodians were doing such a great job. In fact, the customer actually took a photograph of the custodian with, and the custodian is Mr. Bill Duffy. Good. So if Metro Cable can show the picture, yes, of the restroom. There it goes. So our customer was Jay Leno coming through Sacramento County, took the time, and for those of you, I'm sure, well, I know who Jay Leno is, but for those who are watching that don't know who Jay Leno is, he's the host of The Tonight Show back in the 90s and early 2000s and a comedian. But it was really nice to have Mr. Leno give his feedback, and we've had this discussion over so many years in the past years about how restrooms are kind of like the number one indicator for a great airport, and Sacramento County's International Airport under the leadership of Cindy Nickel is our number one mid-size airport in the nation. She does a fantastic job, and this custodian was very proud to take the picture and all the great work he does. And as the welcoming for all the folks visiting Sacramento or leaving Sacramento County, this is and surrounding areas, this was a great thing, and I'm just very happy for. And those of you who don't know, Mr. Duffy's on the left, and Jay Leno's on the right. So, but thank you very much. It was a great thing. Everybody was very happy about it. And just as a reminder, item number 58 on your receive and file is update on SMF Forward and all the great work that's happening at SMF Forward and the investments with the help of the board that the Department of Airports is making. So thank you.
Thanks for those comments, David. And makes me think of the time I met Jay Leno when he was still performing at Laughs Unlimited.
Oh, my God.
Very local. And I know Supervisors Desmond and Kennedy will certainly remember Buffalo Bob's Ice Cream in Old Sac. Mm-hmm. So he stopped in after a set, and I had a buddy working at the ice cream parlor cleaning up late at night, giving his buddies some free ice cream. And Jay Leno, saunters in, and it was kind of a very memorable experience, but it's good.
He might have came back for the ice cream, I'm not sure.
Well, Buffalo Bob's is long gone, but anyhow. Okay, we have others in the queue for, I assume, the next item.
I was just going to follow up on this. No, on this item.
Oh, okay.
Did he happen to mention how welcome he felt at the airport with the chair's public announcement message?
I'm sure he did. I didn't get that detail. I'm sure he did.
That is the fun thing about having your voice recorded for the greeting, which I think both of you now have had that experience, because you get a text message every once in a while. Hey, I heard you while I was waiting for my flight. We're going to get to Supervisor Rodriguez in a minute. I'm going to use chair's prerogative under comments from board members to, first of all, distribute to my left and right a couple of letters for your reference. And what I want to do is, first of all, thank Councilmember Eric Guerra from the city of Sacramento, representing District 6. He's also the mayor pro tem, for reaching out to me, as can be referenced here in the first top letter, expressing an interest in a joint meeting between the Sacramento City Council and the County Board of Supervisors on the subject of housing and homelessness. He makes a very good case for why this would be an opportune time to have that type of joint meeting, and I think he's right. And the second letter documents that concurrence. And I have met with David Villanueva about this, had several discussions with him, in fact. And the only modification to this joint meeting that I'd like to have during my tenure as chair is to invite the 6 other mayors of the 6 other cities of the county. So it'll be a total of 20 of us. And right now, it's very tentative in terms of venue and date, but we're looking late summer, early fall. Probably would not have it here in Chambers because of the size of the dais, but maybe somewhere like the Secaucus Library across the street, we could have it there, and working certainly with our clerk of the board's office to figure out logistics. I have, as a courtesy, also reached out to Mayor McCarty to let him know that I'm collaborating with Councilmember Guerra on this, and I think it's the right time, especially given some of the points he makes, the new membership of the City Council and the Board of Supervisors, as well as what has been referenced on, I think, in every single meeting that we've had since January 20th, which is the kind of how do we deal with this very sensitive subject of housing and homelessness given the disposition of the federal administration. So that is in the works, this joint meeting. I wanted to make all my colleagues aware of that and share with you the transmittal that the correspondence transmittal that documents that, and we'll go from there.
Apparently Jay Leno thinks it's a good idea.
Yeah, he's smiling. He's got a thumbs up. Yeah. Anyhow, okay, we will now move on to Supervisor Rodriguez.
Well, Chair Serna, with all due respect, the collaborative meeting was something that I've been talking about since January when I first started. I think it's a good. I think it was time that I've been talking about county, city of Sac, and all the cities within the county's jurisdiction coming together and having a meeting. And it's good timing because I just had a conversation with Mayor McCarty last Thursday about moving forward with the collaborative efforts. So I'm glad to hear that something will be moving forward. I also want to welcome back Flo. We missed you, and Nicole did a great job while you were gone. I also want to say Happy Earth Day. It's a great time to remind us of the importance of clean air, water, and protecting our natural resources that we all enjoy. Also, I want to honor Paul O'Daniel, who just retired from the Air Force after 23 years. He is now currently he's a mentor to local veterans during their tough times. He is active in Veterans Corps and supports the Wounded Warrior Project. So congratulations on your retirement. And happy birthday, Chair Serna.
Oh, thank you. I know there might be others that want to chime in, but I do think it's worthy of mention that we did lose a great faith leader recently in Pope Francis. And so I don't have any formal in memory recitation here about the Pope, but I know he means a lot to millions and millions and millions of people, and has been shared in social media circles and elsewhere as of late, the fact that he was of a somewhat different mindset compared to past popes, and I think, at least in my humble opinion, certainly progressed the Catholic Church and the Catholic faith in a direction that I, as a Catholic, I was glad to see, and he will be missed. And so I wanted to make mention of that, and I don't know if there's others that want to chime in.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you bringing that up. I agree with all of your comments as well. As someone who's raised Catholic, I have a complex relationship with my faith and my Catholic upbringing.
Who doesn't?
And exactly. And you know, nobody's perfect, nobody's infallible. But I think in this, you know, very cynical and divided time, Pope Francis was someone who worked towards a more peaceful, kind, compassionate, and accepting world. And so I join you in commemorating his passing today.
All right. With that, we will adjourn in the memory of the late Pope Francis.
So